have them answered immediately.
Today, experts queued up to tell us what a bunch of drunks we are. The hope that by freeing up our antiquated licensing laws, we will be transformed into a sophisticated cafe culture where discussions on philosophy will be conducted over a glass of Merlot, were dashed by a group of health organisations that pointed out that we're not France. We don't sip, we chug, and anyone who doesn't like it will get his bleeping head kicked in. Turn back the clock, they said, repeal the 24-hour drinking laws, make it harder to buy drink and slap ever more tax on the stuff. Except that I don't recall our city centres being a haven of sobriety when the pubs used to shut at 11. And even the most restrictive laws on alcohol didn't stop people drinking. That was called prohibition, and the only person who thought that was a good idea was Al Capone. Adding 10% extra tax on drink won't make any difference at all to the amount that people imbibe. It'll just be another moral cash windfall to the Treasury to add to the green taxes that it's difficult to argue against. And anyone who thinks otherwise must be drunk. At least we're ahead of France in one respect. We throw away twice as much rubbish as they do, despite there being more people in France than here. So much so that in 9 years there won't be anywhere to put it. We put 22 million tonnes into landfill sites every year, and we're running out of space. So, where to put it? Well, there's one place where we get an enormous amount of rubbish, much of it dangerous and a hazard to our children. It's time we reverse the tide. Hello, China. We've got something for you. Hey, I have a question. It's about the congestion charge. How do you know when you owe it? Because I was freaking out. I almost broke it today, coming in at just like a minute to 6. And I thought, oh, blind, I swerved over to the right to go around Shepherd's Bush roundabout again in order to avoid it before the news comes on at 6 here. And it's right on the second here, isn't it? Which is how I timed myself. Right? Hello?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but clock starts. Yeah.
What?
Clock starts.
Clock starts, yes, that's right. The time waits for no talk show host here.
Yes.
If you don't shut up before the news comes on, then there'll be a cacophony of words crashing into each other. Yeah, so that's how I timed it. And then I realised as I was doing it, as I was going around and around and around, that I didn't do that yesterday. And I remember saying on the air first thing yesterday that the traffic had been so very light, and I sailed through town like it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I might have... Is it breaking the law? Like Judas Priest? Breaking the law.
Breaking the law.
Is it breaking the law?
I don't know how you know.
Can you not... Wouldn't that be a good idea if you could actually find out, rather than just sitting there waiting for the fine to come in?
It would be very sensible, which almost certainly means you can't do it.
You can't do it, yeah. Because the fine is the thing, isn't it? That's how they make all their money. Everything that you do, or even think of doing, in this country comes with a fine attached to it. And, wouldn't it be so much more civilised if they just billed you at the end of the month?
Mm.
Every time you come in, they'll just note it down and they'll pop a letter in the post, or like the Oyster card, they just automatically deduct it from your account.
And it pay-as-you-go sort of scheme.
Yes, exactly right. Instead of... Because the amount of times... I mean, this must have happened to virtually everybody in London. You're driving along, you know, casually, minding your own affairs, and you don't know whether you've crossed the line to go into the zone or not, right? Because those evil cameras will catch you, whether you just slip in for 5 yards, or you make a mistake and you reverse right the way back out again. It doesn't make no difference to them. Once you're caught, you're caught. But you don't know whether you have or not. I mean, that must have happened to everybody, not just me, right?
Why don't you pay it, and then if you
But that was an outrage. Why, pay something that I don't owe.
But in case you do, and then you'll be in credits for tomorrow.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that.
That would be far too fair.
No, it doesn't. I could not have a car and pay for it, and they'd still take my money, and they wouldn't give it me back. I'm certain of that.
I wonder how many people do that pay when they needn't have bothered just in case.
Just in case, isn't that right?
They're making a fortune.
Because how much does it cost me if I did slip in here before 6 o'clock? Because my mind was on other things. I think my mind was on this sea of green lights that I'd sailed through, because very often, very seldom do you actually see that. You know, it's just chugging from one set of red lights to the next and standing in traffic and you know, thank God for in-car radios. Thank God for us. Because otherwise you'd want to kill yourself, wouldn't you? You just have to sit there looking at the brake lights.
No.
Well, yeah. And I'm not exaggerating in any way. Sit there looking at the brake lights of the car in front of you.
Well,
so you actually saying that there's no way of finding out whether I owe them money? I have to just sit and wait for the fine. Isn't that outrageous?
I don't know for sure, but...
I bet that's the case, though. I am stunned. What are you writing down now?
how do you know if you need to pay the congestion charge?
I mean, you think it would be the simplest thing in the world. I mean, they've got the computing capabilities of NASA over there, don't they? I mean, all of the computing geniuses in the world are putting their brain power in order to fine us. Wouldn't it be just the simplest thing to dial up your number and they tell you whether you've done it or not? Because they certainly know. But that would be, what, a secret? You're not allowed to know what you did yesterday. And the fine, presumably, is significantly more than the actual cost of doing it. So, but just the thought that I would have to spend £10 just in case, I mean, that's just outrageous to me. And that's a giant gap in the market. You know, the thing with the Oyster card, and every time I use it, I can't believe how great it is. It's so user-friendly. It's about the most user-friendly thing I've ever owned. You just, once you set it up to take money automatically from your bank account, once it goes under £5, it'll just stick another 20 on there, and they send you an email that says, we've just, we topped up your card again, and you need never worry about it for the rest of your life. And that's, the whole thing with the Oyster card is kind of surprising to me, because they've obviously missed a giant opportunity to fine people. Because you think what they would have done is that when it goes under £5, then you have to know that and top it up yourself. And if you if you use it again and you've run out of money, then you'll automatically be fined £20 or £50 or just some number that they pull in from space. But it's a brilliant system. And it's serving the customer, because we are the customers of these people. We're giving them money as a customer. And it seems that if it's got anything to do with the government, the customer is always wrong and will be fined accordingly. So I just wonder if it's actually the case that there's no way of finding out whether you've crossed the line, which would seem an outrage to me. I am stunned in advance. I'm expecting to be stunned. It's just, well, I mean, what can you say? What can you say, James? Nothing. The sound of silence. It's, let's go to it just a little bit early, as we are talking about the roads, and see what we get. It's 7:15, or is, close enough for jazz. It's Travel Now with Alan Joyce.
Thanks a lot, Nick. If you're heading onto the M25 in Essex, it has, of course, fully reopened some time ago following that big accident near Junction 27 at the M11. But just had a call in on the jam line saying it's come to a standstill going anti-clockwise now near Junction 26.
We'll begin by being absolutely frank with each other.
It's E.
Elizabeth Smith from Cheddar.
You sound terrible, Elizabeth.
I still got a throat infection.
Yeah, it sounds like you're gargling frog.
How are you keeping, Nick?
I'm all right, my dear. How's your day been?
That's all right. Just been doing a lot of housework, and I'm doing aerobics.
You do aerobics?
Aerobics, yeah.
Oh, aerobics. That's a new
I'm
one.
leotard. They're tight.
Right. Would you go outside to do that?
Indoors.
Indoors? What, in your own house?
Yeah, me bedroom.
Right, well, best, I would think, wearing, a leotard, yeah.
Keep my stomach flat, see?
Is that what that does?
I want to keep it flat for you, Nick.
I'm very honoured. I'll do likewise, all right.
Nick, can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
You tell me the truth if I ask you something.
Oh, I don't know.
Would you go out with me and see how it goes to marrying me?
Right, here's the truth. No.
No, listen a minute. Don't say nothing.
No, okay, I'll think about it.
No, listen a minute. When I was 19, which I'm 40 now,
yeah.
Nick?
Yes.
Somebody told me my future.
Right.
She said I'll be married late in life, which I'm 40 now. She said I'll have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. But she said I'll always be up the north.
That you'll always be what?
Always up the north.
What does that mean? I hesitate to ask.
Like Scotland way, north.
Oh, north of the country. I thought it was a euphemism for something. My mind was racing. You're going to be up the north. Right.
And she said I'd be well known for losing weight.
Yes.
The well-known bit comes through.
Okay. Well, yeah, the well-known bit comes through. Everything up to that part. Well, there's time yet. I mean, you could live to be
100.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I want kids, though, so I can have kids when I'm 70. So what I'm going to do, if I can marry someone before I'm 50...
Then, bingo.
So I'm 42.
Right, okay. Well, leave it with me and I'll think about it, all right?
No, I'm honestly not having you put in your leg, Nick. I'm telling you the truth.
Right. Well, I'm telling you the truth. I'll think about it, okay?
Think about it, my darling, because I do love you.
Yeah, me too. Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. Cheers, my dear.
Bye.
Ta-ta. I'm thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it. Here's the Isle of Dogs. Hello, Mark.
Hello there, Nick. All right.
I'm all right.
Yeah, about your congestion charge.
Yes.
What you can do, the best way to do it is that if you pay today, it costs 10 quid rather than 8.
Yeah.
Over the phone, you get a receipt number for them, and then you can write them an email with a receipt number and ask them if you was in it. And if you was, they keep the £10. If you wasn't, they refund the £10.
Really?
Yeah. There you go. End of the show then, isn't
it? Yeah. I'm off to make a call. Huh. And how do you know that that's true?
Because my girlfriend did it, because I was worried once whether I'd gone in it or not, because I didn't know the area I was in.
Yeah.
And she checked it out, and they said, we can't do anything until you've paid it, which is the actual opposite of what the parking fines is, because they say, don't pay it, contest it.
Right.
Don't they?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just basically pay it. It's £10. You're better off paying the 10 rather than the 80 quid or whatever it is, I think it is nowadays.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah, yeah. So, and then get in touch with them. It might not be an email. It might actually be by proper, like, snail mail.
Right.
But the best thing about it, Nick, is that when you phone them up, it really is a good line. I know you don't usually get that from councils and governments, but they answer quickly and they're really helpful on the phone as well.
Well, that's hard to believe.
It is. You check it out, though, honestly. But you've got till midnight tonight for a tenner yesterday.
Right.
After that, it's the fine.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark.
No worries, Nick.
Cheers, mate. Ta-ra.
Speak to you soon, bye.
Huh. And what's with that, by the way, that it costs more to pay the next day than it does on the day that you do it? I mean, suppose you're just busy. Why fine you £2 just to do it the next day? It doesn't. You're being sarcastic. Here is Park Royal. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Nick.
Jeff.
You can actually phone them up, the congestion charging people, and they will tell you if you've got anything outstanding on your registration number or not.
Right.
So you just give them a call, if you've got anything outstanding, give them your registration number, and they'll tell you yes or no.
And are they 24 hours a day?
Yes.
I'm in shock.
I'm a field service engineer, and I've done it a few times with other engineers as well. Just give them a call.
And it's just, that it would be that simple. I just find hard to believe.
But they'll say yes or no. If it's yes, you just go and pay it. If it was yesterday, then you obviously earn £2 more.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then you don't.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Okay, cheers.
A cloud that was hanging over me when I came in is beginning to dissipate, and it's all because of this show, the power of this programme, eh? Biggin Hill. Hello, Wayne.
Hello. Good evening, Nick.
Wayne.
Are you looking forward to Christmas this year?
Actually, I am, yes.
I'm not this year, because it's a lot of people saying this year going to be very bad, because Father Christmas don't live in Lapland anymore.
All right, I'll play along for a brief period. Where does he live?
He moved over other side of the world.
Go on.
And where he lives now, where he moved now, it takes him longer to send all the presents over.
Right.
And also...
And another thing.
Reindeers, did you know, right, the reindeers are very old now, and worn out.
The reindeers that pull his sled are very old now?
Yeah.
And they're all worn out?
Old, the reindeers, and they're worn out.
Right, well, you make a good point.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wayne. I am actually looking forward to Christmas this year for no particular reason that I can think of. I mean, last year and the year before that, and pretty much every year before that, since I've been like 10. I couldn't really care less about Christmas, but this year I'm quite excited about it. Perhaps it's just that summer was so particularly bad that this year has been without joy so far. You looking forward to it?
Pardon?
You looking forward to Christmas?
Yeah. I'll be in the Lake Districts up a mountain.
Getting wet. It will be raining.
It won't be raining.
Raining.
It never rains on Christmas Day.
It never rains, but it pours in the Lake District. You'll be up a mountain on Christmas Day. Is that wise?
I was there last year up a mountain.
Why? What do you do up there?
For fun.
Doesn't sound like very much fun.
Walking up there, get to the top, have a look round, and walk back down.
Right, like I said, please refer to the answer I gave some moments ago. It doesn't sound like very much fun.
It was brilliant.
Sounds horrible.
No.
Sounds cold and like you'd be freezing.
Oh, it was crisp.
Right.
And sunny and lovely, and you could see all the mountains.
Well, that does sound good. Like I said, that sounds fantastic. Let's go.
Okay, I'm going. Get your ticket.
You don't... I mean, you stay in an actual building, right? You don't take a tent or anything like that.
What do you think I am? Yeah, I stay in a guest house.
Right.
And, yeah, go walking for about 8 hours a day.
Doesn't it cost twice as much money to stay in a hotel at Christmas?
I don't know.
Because a little while ago I tried to book a break at Christmas, and I talked about this on the air, and I singularly failed to do so. I could not get past the website of the airline. I was trying to book directly with them, which I know is a foolish thing to do. But I thought, yeah, all the other, you know, these websites that churn a lot of information from different sources and bring it back at you, they were all advising me that the only flight I could get was at like 1:30 in the morning. It was just a horrific way to start your holiday, right? So I went directly to the airline's website. Couldn't do it. It was an airline beginning with M. And they just would not let me do it. Every single time I made an error, you press the back button, everything that you've logged for the last 20 minutes has disappeared and you've got to start all over again. And I literally spent a morning, and I could feel my blood pressure getting ever higher. And I thought, either I'm going to die doing this, or I'm just not going to have a holiday at Christmas. And they do charge you twice as much over the Christmas period, so it was going to be a lot of money that I was going to be spending with them and the hotel company. But I eventually thought, this is actually ruining my health. I've got to stop now. So they don't get my money. If it had been easy, then I would have done it.
But so you didn't go in the end?
Well, it was for the Christmas period. I was going to be away at Christmas, and so I know that if you look at the hotel rates, they show you often what you're paying for each day. And the 23rd, the 22nd, and the 23rd of December would be one price, and then 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th was over double the price for the previous day.
Really?
Yeah, so they just whack it up. They didn't not experience that? Or are you staying with friends?
Well, no, I'm not staying with friends, staying in a guest house, but it's a set amount, and it's about 300 quid for a week, and I'll probably spend that here. Probably 100 quid on food, 100 quid on booze, presents for people who arrive spontaneously, you know, so I think that's that's my budget for Christmas, and it's not going beyond that.
300?
About 300 quid.
Well, that's about half the average spend, apparently, on Christmas. £706 is what the average shopper will spend on Christmas.
Well, I've saved myself 300 quid.
I can't imagine spending that much money. Like, on what? Parties? What, was like the FIFA strippers? What would that be for? Parties. Shoppers will spend a record amount this Christmas, ignoring the effects of the credit crunch, according to a report that was just out. The average shopper, £706, parties, food, drink and presents. The splurge might actually be the last hurrah before consumers batten down the hatches in the early months next year, according to the head of something or other. It tells you that there's an underlying resilience. Despite all the talk of the credit crunch, people spend differently when it comes to Christmas, and they're very reluctant to cut back. We just won't do it, 'cause it's Christmas!
That's why I'm going away.
Yeah.
To save money.
It's the latest report that suggests consumers are ignoring the effects of the credit crunch, a tactic that could backfire spectacularly in the new year, when it comes time to pay the bills.
Oh, no!
End of January, when they all become due, then everybody will be holding their heads in their hands, and it'll be the great Christmas hangover that's hung over since Christmas. But as I say, I'm quite looking forward to it, and it was particularly cold today, so you suspect that all those experts, you know, those very same experts that told us what a fantastic, long, hot, dry summer it was going to be, they're all telling us what a freezing cold and a crisp winter it's going to be from now on. And the way it was today, they might be right.
Is that because the ducks are putting on a bit of weight. Didn't they say that?
The ducks are...
The ducks in the park, they're a little bit fatter than normal, which predicts a very, very cold winter. So they're preparing for a very cold winter.
Winter's coming and the geese are getting fat. And geese are a type of duck, as any fool know. Yeah, you might be right. Well, at least it rhymes.
It does. But look out for fat ducks in your parks.
Right, I will. Ooh, so yummy.
This is LBC.
Crawley, hello, Richard.
Hi, Nick.
Richard.
Quick question before I get to the main point.
Yeah.
You know Bird's Trifle, not mentioning any brand names?
Bird's,
heard of that?
Bird's Trifle?
Yeah.
Isn't that a brand name?
It is a brand name, yeah.
Without mentioning any brand names, there's a brand name.
Yeah.
Bird's Trifle. Bird's Custard, you mean?
Well, it's got bird's custard in it.
Right.
What you do is you put your jelly, you do your jelly first, and put that at the bottom, and then you make your custard on top, and then you stick that on top, and then you do your topping, and you stick that on top of it.
Right. That's not really a trifle, though. I thought trifles had sponge on the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
There's a sponge bit right at the bottom. That's part of the jelly.
Yeah.
And what you have to do, you pour the jelly liquid on top of the sponge.
Right.
Right. The sponge comes as 4 long sticks.
4 long sticks of sponge.
Yeah. My question is...
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, my question is, are you supposed to... It doesn't say anything on the packet.
Right.
But are you supposed to sort of trying to break those spongy bits up before you, when you pour the jelly on top of it?
Okay, well, I'll treat this with the great seriousness. I think that you should break them up if that means that they would better fit the bottom of whatever bowl it is that you're making the...
It doesn't make any difference. It would fit it anyway.
Right. Well, then, yes, because what you want to do, and this probably doesn't say it on the packet, and the health professionals that have been queuing up today to wag their fingers in our faces will be very upset with me saying this, but you should pour sherry over it, or brandy, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, don't say that in the packet, does it?
No, of course not. Carol would agree with me. Booze?
No, I don't drink booze. That's another thing. I don't really understand booze, to be honest.
You don't understand it?
I've never understood why people like it. I've tried all sorts.
Well, why do people like it?
It just tastes worse than every other soft drink I've ever had.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's an acquired taste, and like many things that are an acquired taste, you wouldn't want anything else to taste of it. Like pilchards are an acquired taste, cigars are an acquired taste, and you wouldn't want ice cream flavoured like that. Chocolate, on the other hand, everybody takes to straight away, and you can get chocolate sauce and ice cream and no end of thing, like body licking lotion and all that sort of stuff, will taste of things that people like. Booze is not a nice taste. There's no getting around it until you get used to it. Why don't you go ahead and get used to it, Richard?
But so, you're saying it's about the effect rather than the taste. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, of course.
Oh, right. That's what I thought. I just wanted to get that straight.
Right, and you've never had alcohol?
Oh, yeah, I've had alcohol. I mean, it's just, I've tried all sorts of different types of alcohol, lager. Cider's not too bad. That's the best thing.
Yeah, that's how I started. And I stuck with cider for a very long time, and every time, and I've said this on the air, and it's very true, every time I used to order at the bar, or, tell people what I wanted in a round, the response was always the same, looking at me like I just dropped in from space, and they say, cider? But now cider sells more than, ale. I'm certain that that's true. They've had a tremendous success with putting ice in the glass. Oh. Amazing, really. Who thought of that?
Well, when I was learning to drink alcohol, you could say, when I was at university.
Yeah.
I went to university in Bath.
Bath. Notorious.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, I was actually doing the right thing by drinking cider.
Oh, because they are cider drinkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, okay,
mind you, that's scrumpy. Scrumpy is awful. That tastes like dishwashing liquid. That is horrible, that stuff.
I remember it being very cheap, though.
Well, cheap it is.
Like about 80p a pint back then.
Yeah.
Sort of about 15.
Well, I'm sure in student unions it's about that now, isn't it?
Oh, really?
Any students listening to this that aren't too drunk to call? How much is a pint in a student union bar? Because here, I mean, in the real world, it can be anything up to £5.
Yeah, that's another thing about drinking in pubs. I just can't be bothered paying those kind of prices.
But every time, the few times that I've gone into a pub lately, you sit there and you're vaguely aware that something's not quite right. Something's missing. And then somebody will say, oh, isn't it great that we won't go home stinking of smoke? And that's the thing that's missing. Isn't it fantastic? And you don't miss it.
People are saying you can smell urine now.
Well, yeah. But I suppose it very much depends on what kind of place you go into. It's amazing how quickly you get used to not sitting in a smoky environment. Because I went to France just lately, and they still smoke there, and it was a bit of a shock, really.
Well, maybe, I mean, you often go on about how bad Britain is on so many different scales compared to other countries. But I think on smoking, Britain is probably one of the least, one of the best countries in terms of the fewer smokers.
Apparently we bought 48 billion cigarettes in this country last year. That's hard to get your head around, isn't it? 48 billion.
That sounds a lot, doesn't it?
It sounds like an awful lot, yeah.
It's probably less than France, I would guess.
Yeah, almost certainly, yes. Anyway, what did you call about, Richard?
Okay, well, we're getting on so well there. I'm going to sort of ruin it now, I think.
Puddings we talked about.
You often go on about fines a lot, I've noticed that.
Fines?
I mean, I've been listening to you for, since you started on LBC and before that, but your obsession with fines has really been...
Well, my obsession is just a reflection on the government's obsession, that's all. I mean, it affects all of us all the time, because everything that we do, we think, oh, better not do that, I'll get fined.
But it doesn't affect everybody. It only affects those who get fined.
No, it doesn't.
I've never been fined for anything.
Well, you've been lucky so far.
I personally would... Which is better to tax? People who go out to work, or people who do wrong? That's the question you should ask yourself.
Well, but it's not an either-or, it's both.
I know it's both. I knew you'd say that. But
you went ahead and asked me anyway.
You could cut down on one theoretically. I mean, you got to ignore that question, haven't you? I mean, I know it's easy to say both, but if they wanted to cut tax, potentially they could afford a cut in income tax by raising fines.
Well, no, they would raise fines, but they wouldn't give it us back. They certainly wouldn't do that. It doesn't seem that any amount of money that we give them, one way or the other, is enough. Heaven only knows what they're actually doing with it, but however much it is, not quite enough.
Oh, well,
so I don't think that we'll ever get a rebate in any way. They'll just keep taking. No one has any clue what they're spending it on. I mean... We're one of the most highly taxed nations on Earth. London is apparently the most expensive city on the planet, bar one.
But is that just the tax, or is it just generally expensive?
That's the cost of living, which, of course, is, tax has got a lot to do with that.
But you often hear about, Scandinavia paying silly income tax rates, don't you?
Yes.
50, 60%. We pay relatively low tax rate, especially for in basic rates. I think our basic rate is one of the lowest in the world, I think.
I'm not sure that's true.
Well, compared to, say... other European countries, anyway.
I'm not sure that's true.
Well, which ones are...
You're just making it up.
Well, Scandinavia, it's supposed to be one of the best areas to live in the world, yeah?
Yeah.
But yet they have high tax rates.
Right, but if you're going to... Yes, but if you're going to have sensual relations in Scandinavia, then it'll be hot 6-foot blonde sex. And that's worth any amount of taxation.
Well, fair enough.
There you go.
See you later.
All right, thanks, Richard. Puddings! Let's talk puddings. Britons are deserting traditional hot puddings.
Is that a pun?
Is what a pun?
Deserting.
Oh, I've only just got that. That's very good. That's the Telegraph.
God, they're just hilarious,
aren't they? Just? Well, you've got to have a laugh. Britons are spurning traditional British puddings, such as, let's get it over with so we don't have to snigger anymore, Spotted Dick. Treacle Tart and Jam Roly-Poly. A study shows that classic hot desserts are in danger of disappearing completely from British mealtimes. There's been this great resurgence of British traditional food in restaurants. Have you noticed? Have you been out lately? It's all about cheap cuts of meat, which is what we used to eat, during the war because you couldn't get none. Yes, we have not known nothing, they used to say. And so they used to cut, bits of cows' heads and all that awful stuff, which to me is awful. Can't stand it. But if you go into one of these modern British restaurants, that's what they're doing, all this, icky, cheap cuts of meat. Places
Really?
places like, fancy places in the West End, places like Arbutus and Wild Honey and all of these places that people are falling over themselves to get a table in. It's all bits of food, bits of animals that a couple of years ago people would have turned their noses up. Now that it's all the rage. So it's traditional British food is the latest thing, apparently. Do I sound like A.A. Gill yet?
A little bit.
According to research, among 2,000 people, 2 in 3 households never eat spotted dick. And more than half never eat jam roly-poly, treacle tart, bread and butter pudding, or any of that stuff. Consumption of traditional British puds has fallen 60% over the last 10 years. Guess who carried out this survey? Bird's Custard.
Okay.
It's exactly right. And they're just, the Telegraph and all the other newspapers reporting this verbatim. It just come in on the fax machine, and oh, blimey, we've got a big space there in between the adverts. We'll just stick that in there. This is what I'm saying all along about newspapers just being a conduit for the PR business. We'll get 2,000 people. It'll cost us, a couple of grand. And we'll call them up on the phone. Have you had any spotted dick lately, dear? And the ones that don't slam the phone down on you will say no, because who does? And then we'll send it to the newspapers, and they'll all print the name of our company, Bird's Custard. There you go, I've said it twice already.
When was the last time you had some custard?
Well, that's a very long time ago, and I quite like custard.
Yeah, I do.
But now it's winter, tis the time to be
do you make it up when you've done it, or do you buy the
powder?
You can get boxes, can't you, that's already made up?
Oh, yeah, I did try that, but actually, the powder, I mean, I know what is it? It's just chemicals, right? No, it probably isn't. It's probably extremely good for you, the powder that comes in those tins. But there's just something about that that's...
I think it's eggs and sugar, predominantly.
What, in the powder?
And flour.
Right. Corn flour.
Because you can make it yourself, can't you?
Well, you can make it absolutely from scratch, but there's probably nobody in the history of home kitchens who's ever done that.
Well, Delia Smith probably has.
Oh, the blessed Delia, no doubt.
And I bet her custard's fantastic.
Yeah, her spotted dick has no peers. It's 7:45. Here's Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick, and we're looking...
We did?
Carol, we're doing puddings. I just read to the end of this article. Apparently Bird's Custard, who have conducted this survey about the lack of jam roly-polies on our dinner plates, are going to write to MPs in an attempt to get politicians behind its campaign to reinstate traditional puddings. Believe that? Like they don't have enough on their plates, literally and metaphorically. See, this is why they have secretaries, to siphon out this stuff. An independent nutritionist said there is no reason why traditional puddings can't be consumed once a week as part of a balanced diet. The fruit-based puddings, by increasing the fruit content and reducing the proportion of the pastry crumble mixture, can limit the fat and calories of the dish and even make a contribution to the recommended portion of 5 a day. Or, if you're trying to lose weight, you could always just eat an apple.
Boring!
Oh yeah, that's right. It's boring. Westminster, hello Tony.
Hello, matey. God, dear me. Right, here's a bit of...
Are you all right, Tony?
Well, yeah, I was, you're very funny. I had to take you out of my Bluetooth because you was hurting my head. But anyway, listen, here's an idea for Birds, right? If they want more people to eat more puddings, right, why don't they make their own blimmin' puddings and sell it with the custard?
Right.
Yeah, there's an idea for them, right? Instead of writing to fat MPs who know a thing or two about puddings, why don't they make their own puddings and sell it with the custard? And in that way, they've got the market cornered, haven't they? That's that. Number 2, right, if you was in Sweden, right, which has got the highest suicide rate in the world...
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Not a good...
Japan, apparently. I think Japan has, but then there's a tradition over there. But go on.
I don't think they count, actually.
Oh, don't they?
No, they don't count.
Japanese lives don't count. You heard it here first.
Yeah. What was the other thing? The only people that get fined are the people that go to work. Right? So if you don't...
Everybody that's sitting at home watching Trisha with a can of Stella in their hand, they don't get fined. Yeah, you're quite right.
That's right. So you only get fined if you go to work. So you're taxed to go to work.
Yeah.
And then once you've been to work, you can get taxed again.
Right.
So that's that.
What was the thing about Sweden, though?
Oh, Sweden. Well, when I went to Sweden, looking for that tall blonde thing that you was on about,
yeah.
I didn't meet any, actually. I was quite mortified. I mean, I met a fat bird from Southend, for Christ's sake. But they got a high suicide rate, I think.
Yes.
So it's not a good place to go, because your man that rang up earlier about wanting to know whether he should break up the base of his trifle. Ye God. Well, yes, it's a good idea to break it up.
Right. And what's that got to do with Sweden?
Well, he mentioned Sweden, so I'm mentioning
Oh, right, good for you. Well, as long as we're continuing a theme.
Well, no, I couldn't keep up with him, actually. I was just trying to figure out what he qualified when he was in Bath University, what degree he came out with, and what he actually did for a job.
He was studying drink, I think.
Drink? Oh, that's right, he was practising to absorb alcohol.
Yeah.
And all the different types of alcohol.
That's right.
I'm surprised you didn't tell him there's only one type. God's sake. Anyway, what I wanted to ask you was...
another thing.
Yeah, another thing. Another thing, right, my missus is looking out the window what I'm doing sitting in the car.
Wondering how her life went so wrong, yes.
Yeah, right, is that the making of the old traditional puds is dying out as the old girls die out. The new mums now, they'll go and get their Sarah Lee's, and if it hasn't got, toffee sponge or whatever the stuff's called, in a box, you're not going to eat it.
Right, because nobody makes anything from scratch anymore.
Well, not enough people for bird's custard, that's for sure. But, I mean, the last pudding I've had here would be like a bowl of mixed fruit. I mean, that's the best I can get out of her for a pudding. I couldn't expect her to turn out a treacle sponge.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like trying to get her to come out of the house on a Saturday night before 8 o'clock.
Yeah, with you. Yeah, you're beginning to get the message, Tony? Thanks a lot, mate.
Listen, finally, before I go...
Oh, God. And in closing...
Before I go, what I rang up to say to you was that it's very true. You can ring the mayor's charge you up department and ask them whether or not you've breached any rules and regulations. Generally speaking, they will say it's safer to assume that you have. Pay us the 80 quid... and we'll look into it later. And if there is a rebate, we will send it back to you.
Right. Okay, well, I'll tell them to look into this.
Yeah, unless you're an American or Nigerian.
Right, that last part, I've got no idea what that means. But anyway, thanks a lot, Tony. You need a roadmap to figure out where the call was going. An A to Z would be good. This is LBC.
London...
I enjoy working with people.
0845 6060 973. I have to say it because he didn't. But, that call was all over the place, and I'm still reeling. I gave him a headache. But he did have a good point. Nobody cooks from scratch anymore, and so if they want people to go and eat spotted dick, they're going to have to make it themselves. And if they stock it right next to the the little round friendly tin, then it sounds like a good job well done. I mean, would you have any idea how to make like a hot sponge pudding? I mean, you know whether to get the spotted part, because that's just raisins and stuff. But where would you get the dick? Here is Forest Hill. Hello, Laurie.
Hello, Nick. I was just thinking, you saying that people don't make anything again. Birds don't make custard powder anymore. They only sell it ready-made.
I don't believe you.
I believe I've read it. It's absolutely true. Because if you think about it, I bet if you ask most people, they'll say, no, they go and buy it, either it's in a tin or it's fresh, that they sell in the supermarkets in the tubs.
I would imagine that the so-called fresh product there has a larger markup than the powder, so they're probably tempted to do that. But surely they haven't stopped selling custard powder because
I'm absolutely certain.
Well, that would be like Marmite stopping selling their unctuous treacle.
No, but they're still selling their product, but it's ready-made because people don't bother. You think about how many people say, "Oh, I made the custard; it was lumpy and all that." It's perfect in that tub, isn't it? Never lumpy.
Yeah, but it must cost at least 100 times more than buying it in powdered form. Just a tiny little bit more effort.
I know what you're saying, but how many people in that respect buy ready-made meals?
Who actually?
There's lots of people who do that, as opposed to you can actually buy fresh ingredients and cook them yourself for a lot cheaper.
Yes.
But they don't do it, do they?
Most people don't. No. And more fool them. I mean, I know that the speed of modern living and all of these labour-saving devices haven't made the slightest bit of difference. People are working longer and harder than ever before. But to come home and for your main meal to be out of a box that you just open and read the instructions on the outside and nuke in the microwave, that's really, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why we're all dropping down dead.
Exactly, and getting huge. Indeed. Anyway, That was all I had to say. I can't go on like Tony, I'm afraid.
It's a great relief to us all. Thanks a lot, Laurie.
You're welcome.
Cheers. Ta-ra. Yes, that is definitely one of the reasons that we're all collapsing in a heap all over the place, and why newspapers are telling us how to live our lives on a daily basis. You got to drink this, and you can't drink that. You must eat this, and do this, do that. If everybody just made food from scratch, then it wouldn't be this problem anymore, and the multivitamin industry would collapse in a heap, because the only reason that people would take multivitamins is if they were getting their main dietary requirements from boxes of food, which have had all the nutrients zapped out of them before you even buy them. So this is the modern human condition. We're killing ourselves slowly with food that comes with instructions, rather than food that you buy as as nature has spat out of the ground and you chop up. You remember chopping stuff up, don't you? The only things that people chop up in this country anymore are lines.
Do you cook?
Yes.
What do you cook?
Stuff. I have, in the crack den, I'm always boiling things.
Are you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Can you bake a cake?
I don't believe I've ever from scratch tried to bake a cake, but then who bakes a cake?
Well, people.
Betty Crocker.
I baked cake once.
From scratch?
From scratch?
Well, no, wait, when I say from scratch, I mean...
define from scratch.
Well, from scratch is not with a box that you read the back of it and then you add an egg and milk. That's not from scratch.
No,
right.
You've got flour and your eggs and your sugar and your brown sugar and your raisins and your dates and your bits of orange peel.
Mm.
Yeah, I've done that.
And how did it turn out?
It was all right.
What you mean by that is it was horrible. It was a disastrous experiment that you've never repeated. Am I right?
Well...
All right, well, I double dare you. Make one tomorrow and bring it in and we'll all enjoy it. Or not, as the case may
I'll
be.
try.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Trying to tell me that this is your act?
Where to start with what we just heard on the news? People don't like Joss Stone. I wasn't aware of that. What's wrong with Joss Stone?
I don't know.
I mean, the people will be complaining that she's late. It's fair enough. I can remember going to see Grace Jones. You remember Grace Jones, don't you?
Pull up to the bumper, baby?
Yeah, that's right. And this was at Brixton, and she was supposed to be on at, the ordinary time that a band comes on. 9, something like that. So we waited from 9. 9 came and went, so did 10, 11, 12. About 12:30, she showed up without a word of an apology and just went into her act, and she was doing this thing where she was, I think it was Pull Up to the Bumper, and she was singing the song, and then she put the microphone down to some people at the front for them to, sing back at her. The guy grabbed the microphone and started berating her for being late.
Brilliant.
And she pulled the mic back and says, "Late? I don't even know what day it is." But that's Grace.
I can tell you why I don't like Joss Stone.
Go on, then.
She's dull.
Is she?
Yeah.
I've got no idea what Joss Stone does.
She
Does
sings.
it sound like this? Bet it's not that exciting.
It's not that exciting, no.
I bet.
She's dull. She's older than her years.
Right.
She's got a very odd accent.
Isn't she a jazz person?
Soft jazz, gentle jazz.
Right.
A bit rubbish.
Well, I like jazz.
Yeah, but you would have her in your collection then, wouldn't you?
No, Joss Stone. I don't think so.
So you don't like her either?
Well, it's not that I don't like her, I just don't know her.
I don't know her, but
to know her
I don't like
is
her.
to love her. That's what I heard.
Groovy.
She's a jazz person.
She's just a bit dull.
Bit dull. Right.
Boring.
Like that.
Hmm.
But then you don't like jazz, I bet.
No.
What are these people that don't like jazz?
It's horrible.
It's not horrible. That's a ludicrous thing to say.
It's not ludicrous.
It is.
Not really.
You're being daft, woman.
Am I uneducated?
No, it's not that you're uneducated, it's just that you have a very small, closed mind. And I don't mean to be offensive when I say that.
I'll live with that, but this... that beat, horrible.
Groovy, baby. You're sending me, Daddy-O.
Who's your favourite jazz musician?
I'd have to say Chet Baker. In fact, Chet Baker was the answer to a £1 million question in the book of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's one of the few answers to a question from that book that I actually knew the answer to. I cannot believe that I knew the answer to a £1 million question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Was he the answer, or was there a question around him?
It was a question around him. It says, so what instrument did Chet Baker play? Gave you 4 options, and anybody that knows anything about jazz, which I guess is about 3% of the population, would be right now bellowing at the radio.
Yeah. Don't tell us. Don't tell us.
Okay.
Tease us. Banjo.
Banjo is the wrong answer. No, I'm sorry. And I would have given you £1 million too. Here is Mortlake. Hello, Marjorie.
Hello.
Marjorie.
Hello. Yes, I'm ringing about the custard powder.
Right.
Gentleman said you can't buy the custard powder anymore.
Yeah.
I buy it all the time.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Today in Sainsbury's.
There you are.
You can buy it in tins already made.
Yes.
But it's not the same.
No, it's not the same ready-made.
No.
No, quite right.
No.
Yeah.
No. You can still buy the powder. I buy it all the time. I bought some today.
Yeah, well, I would have thought that if they had stopped making Bird's custard powder, we would have heard about it, because there would have been some sort of outrage.
It's in all the supermarkets anyway. I don't know whether small shops stock it, but the
that man should just...
supermarkets do.
He should open his eyes and look.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, thanks a lot, Marjorie.
Thank you.
Cheers, ta-da. Yes, now there would have been some sort of outrage if that had happened, in much the same way as if Heinz had stopped making beans, or if Marmite had stopped making its whatever that stuff is. What is that stuff? No one has any idea. Like a mystified shakings of heads through there. The other thing that was on the news was that Jackie, hello, my name's Jackie Smith, the Home Secretary. Seriously, dear, you've got to call yourself Jacqueline. You're becoming a laughingstock. Jackie, my name's Jackie. Hello.
We didn't call Anthony. We didn't call Tony Anthony, did we?
That's a good point.
But, you know, we're a bit miserable about Jackie. Because that does sound wrong.
It just, there's no gravitas behind that. Tony, Anthony. Yeah, Tony doesn't sound right, but that was part of his whole persona, wasn't it? Just call me Tone. Hi.
Everyone's mate.
His sort of Cliff Richard routine. She buried bad news, or rather was economical with the truth, was mendacious, was guilty of obfuscation, apparently, in hiding the fact that a lot of illegal immigrants were posted in security jobs by the government, one of which was guarding Gordon Brown's own car. I mean, that demonstrates a level of incompetency that's just hard to believe, doesn't it?
Cheap labour,
well, that's got nothing to do with it. That somebody would be employed to be security for the Prime Minister, who is an illegal. I mean, that's just staggers the imagination.
But are they taking, you know, are they trying to get, are they trying to save money?
I just think, well, we don't know the answer to that. I would imagine that giant incompetence is probably the answer to the questions that that are rattling around our minds right now. Hello, I'm Jackie. Here is Plasto. Hello, Carol.
Hiya, Nick. All right?
Yes, Carol.
You was a little bit confused about the congestion charge.
Yes.
There's an easy way to do it, because sometimes I have to do it. The job I do, I can't remember sometimes if I've prayed or whatever.
Right.
Go to the website.
Yeah.
And just press on, there's a little, about 4 or 5 boxes. Press the one, pay for previous day.
Right.
Put in your registration number, and if there isn't a payment being made for that particular day, for that vehicle, it'll come up in a little box on the right-hand side that says, say you you went on the computer at 6:15, it will read something to the effect, 18:15, no payment being made with relation to that vehicle.
Right. No, it's not that I've forgotten whether I paid or not, it's that I don't know whether I actually owe them.
Right, well, that will tell you. It's easier to find out I know it sounds silly. It's easier to find out if you haven't paid than it is to find out if you have paid. Do you get my meaning?
No.
It's so simple, because I'm a chauffeur, so sometimes, you know, like you do that many jobs in a day, you think, oh God, have I been in the city, have I paid?
Yeah.
So what I do is I just go to the computer. If it's the previous day, I'm not too sure, because obviously you said it's £10.
Right.
You put your registration number in of the vehicle that you want to query,
Yeah.
and on the right-hand corner, it will tell you if a payment has been made for that vehicle for the previous day.
Yeah, but I'm not questioning whether I paid or not. I just question whether I owe it.
But that will tell you if you owe it, because you haven't. If it comes up that you haven't paid, it's obvious that you owe the money.
Oh, I see. Right, okay, well, I'll give that a go, because I'd much rather do it by pewter than talk to a human being.
It is so simple. I use it all the time. You just bang in your registration, and like I say, if it's a previous day one you're querying, on the right-hand corner it will tell you the time that you've made the query and if a payment's been made for that previous day.
Right, but if a payment hasn't been made, then it won't tell me that a payment hasn't been made. Will it actually say that you don't owe us?
No, it will tell you that a payment hasn't been made, and then all you do is, there's a little red arrow, you continue, and then you pay your £10.
Right. And then you give these people your bank details.
Well, yeah, but...
And then kiss all of your money goodbye.
No, no. But it's so honestly, it's so simple. Right. It really is.
When you say that you're a chauffeur, did you say chauffeur?
Yes, I am.
Right. Is that just a more posh way of saying cab driver?
No, I'm a chauffeur. I'm a chauffeur to the managing director at London City Airport.
Should you have told me that?
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm proud of the job.
London City Airport. Right.
Yeah.
That's one attraction that I haven't visited yet.
Oh, you want to come? Best airport. We keep winning all the awards.
Do you?
Yeah, minimum 10-minute check-in. You're done and dusted.
Is it because it's so uncontaminated by planes?
No, we do a good business there.
Do you?
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's got to be better than Heathrow, right?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Unless they're advertising with us, in which case it's by far the best airport in the world. Everyone should go there just for fun. Never mind about if you're going to leave the country.
Well, that's what. If you ever visit, go to customer services, ask them to ring Carol, and I'll come over and treat you to coffee.
All right, that's a deal.
And bird's custard
Yeah.
is still being made, because I bake my own pies, my own sweets, my own puddings, because I'm a northern lass who came down, married a squaddy down here, and I do all my own cooking.
Right, so it's not just coffee you'll be buying me, it's pudding.
If you like puddings, I can make you a wicked banoffee pie or a carrot cake, whatever you want.
Okay, well, bring a selection and I'll choose, all right.
Yeah, seriously, I'll drop you some off. I've done it before.
But let me just state that we don't want anybody to drop us off any food, because we'll have to throw it away.
I know, because it's all health and hygiene stuff.
Oh,
now.
health and safety. The health and safety executive in this building would hit the roof. Yeah.
And it's gas, and you can't even have a treat anymore.
I know. They put cones around it, Carol.
The yellow thing that do not cross this line.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the thought that counts. Lovely thought. Thanks a lot, Carol.
Bye, darling.
Cheers, ta-ra. 8:15. Here's Travel Now with Karen Mercer.
The M25 now open.
Beginning by being absolutely frank with each other.
And frankly, I've just been fingering my face.
What?
And I realised that when I shaved today, having not shaved for a good long while, I missed a large chunk of my face, you know, the bit that's around the corner. And although you can't, when you're doing the shaving, because often the lighting in the bathrooms is quite poor, sometimes the light will be behind you so that you're shaving in shadow, you don't notice. When you're talking to other people, it's the only thing that they can see. I have a sprout of hair coming out of my face that you can see from space. I am a disgrace. No, Nick, you're not a disgrace.
I can't see it. Where?
It's around the corner. It's over here.
Dimmed.
It's sort of hidden by my giant headphones.
Just turn around a little bit.
No.
Go on. Oh!
Here is Hams. Hello, Cliff.
Hello there.
Where's Hams? Cliff.
Hi, it's Cliff here. Hi.
Yes, hello, Cliff. Where's
Hi, Nick, yeah.
Where's Hams?
Hans?
Where are you?
I'm in Basingstoke. Hampshire.
Oh, Hants. I've got
Yeah.
Hams.
Oh, right, okay.
Continuing the food theme.
Right. I just really wanted to call about the congestion charge and your experience of that. Mine was kind of similar, and some of your previous callers have perhaps taken the wind out of my sails a little bit, because it sounds like they've all had a pretty positive experience of it. But
Yeah, can you believe that?
well, I was driving through London a few weeks ago on a Wednesday morning. Wasn't sure whether I'd gone in the congestion charge zone or not. Sat-nav kept telling me that I was on the edge of it, so the same day I called them to find out, and they told me they couldn't tell me. So then I said, well, what do I do? Because I don't want to pay if I don't owe you. And they said, well, your best bet is just to pay. So I then said, well, when would you be able to tell me? And they said, well, midnight tomorrow evening.
Right.
So the following day. And I then asked, well, at what point do I have to pay the fine? The 50, which apparently is £50 instead of £8. And they said, well, from midnight tomorrow evening. So in other words, they were only able to tell me whether I'd entered the congestion charge zone or not at the point at which I owed them £50 instead of £8.
Right. But if you paid them £8 and you didn't owe them, did they say they'd give you the money back?
I get the impression from your previous callers that whereas there are obviously now, I know, ways of avoiding the problem by going to the website.
So they say, yeah.
Well, so they say. It sounds like the people who answer the phones, for the congestion charge don't really know how the system works very well, because I was in a position where I either had to pay £8 when I possibly didn't know it, or pay £50 because I was going to wait till midnight of the following day to find out whether I owed them or not.
Can you believe that if it just slips your mind, with all the things that we've got on our minds in London these days, that if you just forget, they'll charge you £50 for a slip of the mind. That is an outrage.
To me, it became, at that point, I felt it was a sort of confirmation that it was effectively a stealth tax rather than just a way of actually preventing people from using their cars in London.
I firmly believe that every fine that has been introduced by this government, and there has been I read a statistic that said that there has been a new law every day of this government's existence. Over the past 10 years, they brought in one new law every day. Can you believe that?
Crazy, yeah.
But I firmly believe, just like everybody else, that every fine is just a way of getting more money out of
That's right, I agree with you, yeah. So that's why, I just wasn't sure whether your experience was likely to be the same as mine or not, but it sounds like if you go to the website, you could be okay. But...
Well, I'll report back tomorrow and tell you what I find. All right. Thanks, Cliff.
Okay. Cheers, thanks a lot.
Bye. Yes. Now, a lot of these people are saying how easy it's been, but I suspect that might not be my experience. I mean, it's part of it that, these things always happen to me. But I sort of doubt it. But I'll tell you how it goes. I mean, I've written it on my hand, like some sort of school child. I've got to make notes on my hand, just in case I'll forget. Of course, I would never wash that off. Here is Bracknell. Oh, Jethro.
Mr. Abbott, yeah, good evening.
Jethro.
Can I challenge your knowledge of jazz for about 29 seconds?
Go on.
I'm going to play you a track for about 29 seconds. I'll come back on the phone and I want you to tell me who it is and what the track is, okay? Is that right?
I won't know that.
Well, you just said only 3% of the population know anything about jazz, as if you knew everything. It was you being your arrogant, normal, all-knowing musical self.
How can you possibly extrapolate from what I said to I know everything about jazz?
Well, by presumption, I think, really.
All right, play away.
Here you go.
Soft and warm and green and icky.
And I know that.
Barely qualifies as jazz.
You get it?
Oh dear, we seem to have run out of time on that music. Yes, that was a girl from Ipanema.
Very good, very good. That's a title. Performed by whom?
The Girl from Ipanema by. And I want to say Jose Feliciano, but that's not right. That's Light by Fire. The Girl from Ipanema by.
Because it could be covered by quite a few people. But if you get the person first time round, I will give you a big whoop. Well done, man.
Well, I don't think I want that.
Oh, okay. What do you want then? What kind of stroke? What kind of stroke rather than a stroke of recognition and adoration rather than a punitive one do you want?
Chocolate bread and butter pudding with double cream.
It's almost in the post already.
Is it?
Almost.
The Girl from Ipanema by. I almost certainly have this at home. In fact, I've probably got like 3 or 4 different versions of it.
Surname's G. famous saxophonist. First name begins with S. S-G.
Stefan... No.
Grappelli was a jazz violinist.
Yeah. I don't know. Who was it?
Stan Getz.
That's what I said.
Exactly. The chocolate's on the way.
Hang on a minute. That wasn't Stan Getz.
It wasn't him singing, but it was on his CD.
You see, what a dope. He asked me what it is. He gives me the answer, which is completely wrong.
Well, no, it's half true.
It's not even remotely true.
Oh, don't get upset. This is all for free. I'm not charging you for this, you know.
What an idiot Stan Getz. Any fool know that ain't true. Who was it?
It was Stan Getz.
No, it wasn't.
There was a female singer. It was that Brazilian woman. There must be some Brazilian people know that she's that salty, sexy sort of...
You know nothing.
Okay, anyway, I'm outraged at the way you treated me last night. Totally outraged.
Really?
At 9:30, I made big efforts to contact you.
Yeah.
I got through, and I talked my best about Gordon Brown's vision, and did free flow consciousness, and moved into the area of the Marx Brothers.
Yeah, I think that was the problem, the free flow part.
Soda fountains, all that kind of stuff. And as soon as I put the phone down, because I run out of things to say, I was slagged off by you.
Yeah, who, me?
Yeah. And the woman, your side bit person.
Side bit. My bit on
You're
the side.
You're a supportive female on sort of, cohab sort of...
What are you on about?
Don't pick a fight with her.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, do you want people to phone up and contribute, or just going to be horrible and negative about them? That's all I know.
Well, when you say people, do you mean
Not
you?
him.
Or I've told you before, you
What?
sensitive Burke, I enjoy your call.
Oh, well, yeah, just want to be confrontational, just for the sake of getting some mileage out of it.
Oh, I'm being confrontational. Listen, you're shouting, man. Do calm down.
This is emotional. I was emotive. I was all upset because I thought it was quite sensible. We did Brown, political vision. Then you moved it onto Putin, which I thought was quite sensible.
Mm-hmm.
And you did a little bit about man boobs. And then I thought, you said, do you want to talk anything more? I said, well, I've run out. I said, well, let's move on to Marx Brothers. We did Marx Brothers.
Yes.
I did a reference back to the political situation.
Boring. Yeah, go on.
With Karl Marx, and then for some reason we got onto Coca-Cola and soda siphons, and you confused it by saying that you could buy fountains, soda fountains in American shops at the turn of the century.
Yeah, and on and on and on you went.
Boring!
It was fascinating.
All right, well, so, okay, let's go back to Marx Brothers. Do you like Abbott and Costello? How do they compare to Marx Brothers?
No, Abbott and Costello were, the problem with Abbott and Costello was that they were the people that took over in the world's affections from Laurel and Hardy.
Right.
In much the same way as those Three Stooges did. Now, Laurel and Hardy was a very quiet and, sort of gentle comedy, whereas the comedy that usurped them when Laurel and Hardy got a little bit too old, and they came out of fashion. The comedy at the time, the people that took over from them, Abbott and Costello and so on, was all very shouty and hitty, and it was much less subtle.
Well,
and at the time, it must have seemed like a breath of fresh air, because Laurel and Hardy were getting very old and their best work was behind them. But in retrospect, it must have been very galling for them, because Laurel and Hardy were, I think there's not much argument about this, the greatest double act in history. And the people that followed them just weren't. And so it must have been upsetting to be Laurel and Hardy, and for their star to have waned in favour of the much lesser talents that followed.
So, what about Crosby and Hope on the road movies? And all
Well, that was very different, wasn't it? That was they were also a gentle comedy.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy those movies.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing about those old say 1960s comedians was that they're all having to operate under quite a strong moral censorship. So all their comedy came out was without swearing, was without intense sex.
Just like this show, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, a bit like yours, actually.
Exactly.
And they managed to
A
find...
strong moral code, that's what you'll find here. But in closing, Jethro...
Okay, you want to get rid of me?
Yes.
London's biggest.
Let's get back to it.
And in case you passed out during the course of that news with shock, emergency services were called to the Duke of York's plane, the Chuki York, as it landed in Scotland earlier on. The landing gear of the jet suffered problems as it came into Edinburgh Airport at about 5:30. It was taking the Prince from RAF Lossiemouth in Moray to the Scottish capital for an evening engagement. What does that mean? Dinner?
Yeah.
He got a plane to go to dinner. Isn't that great? Why don't you take the train, you giant lump? No offence, Your Majesty. The jet suffered problems as it came into the airport. Yeah, it just ran out of champagne. Here is Aldershot. Hello, Andy.
Hi there.
Andy. Hello, Andy. Yes, Andy.
How are you doing? All right.
All right, thanks.
I expected Ian tonight, but
no, Ian's not here anymore.
No. Yeah, I spoke to Clive the other day.
Oh yeah.
About the weather.
Mm-hmm.
And I because it was the first time that I called, I got all my dates mixed up.
Right.
About forecasting a storm on the way.
What, you were forecasting the
Yeah,
storm?
well, not me, but someone gave me some information. And I got all my dates mixed up. So.
Who gave you information?
A company called Weather Action.
All right.
And yeah, there's one on the way. Yeah. On the 24th.
Yeah, I'd read that a couple of weeks ago. In fact, that very date, the 24th. Yeah, look out for it.
The 24th.
How can they possibly know?
Well, they knew that 11 months ago.
Yeah, repeat my question. How could they possibly know?
Well, it's all to do with what goes around comes around. And not global
right.
warming.
Science,
Apparently.
is it? You mean they're just making it up?
No, it's pretty accurate.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
We go by it because I'm a roofer, and we go by the weather. It's all our business revolves around weather.
Right, what you mean is, you get up in the morning, you look out of your window and see what it's like, yeah.
Well, no.
Are you seriously telling me that you've cancelled all work on the 24th because there's going to be a storm?
No, we're starting work on the 24th because all the...
Oh, because of the... Right, okay, yeah.
So we're rubbing our hands, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, on around about the 24th, you've read it already, you say, but we knew about it 11 months ago.
Right.
And we knew about the storm on the 8th that's just gone, that hit Scotland and down east.
Right.
South east.
You know, I could predict a storm. If I predict one every day, eventually I'm going to be right.
Yeah. But,
I don't think anybody puts any faith in weather reporting anymore. They can't even tell you what it's like right now.
Yeah, but you're talking about the Met Office and people like that.
Well, how many... they've got computers that could launch a rocket into space.
They could do, but they can't predict the weather.
Well, what are they doing over there?
About, sort of a day before, but they can't do long range to sort of a day or two.
Right. Yeah, honestly, Andy, no one can.
I'll ring you back on the 25th.
All right.
If
we're all still here, yeah.
If we're all still here, I'll ring you back on the 25th.
If we haven't been sucked up into an eddy and are marching along the yellow brick road, yeah, if we're all still here, that'd be great. Okay.
But just on that one as well, there's also some storms over Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
And are we going to get a white Christmas?
I just thought I'd put that in because there's not going to be a white Christmas, no. So I wouldn't bet.
Right. Okay.
Take your money to say, if you went to British and said, I'm going to bet it's going to snow, they'll rip your arms off, because they know it's not going to.
And is it going to be a long, freezing cold winter?
I don't know. I don't look at the temperatures, because it's not...
That's neither here nor there. Right.
The winds interest me, the strong winds.
Yes. On the 24th, you say?
Yes.
What day of the week is that?
Sorry?
What day of the week is that?
I think it's a Saturday, I think.
Well, isn't that typical? You'll be charging double on Sunday.
Well, that's right, double. Yeah. That's right.
And I'm suspecting, rather, that you engineered this.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah. All right, call me back on that Monday.
Okay.
And then I'll laugh.
Okay.
Or you will, whichever is the case.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting.
All right, cheers, Andy.
See ya.
24th, yes, I read that a little while ago in in one of the papers, that there was going to be a storm, and right enough, was it a storm? I don't think it was. There was a slight wind, but that was about it. I'm experiencing a slight wind right now, as a matter of fact.
Lovely.
But no great, men's hats didn't blow off, which is about as strong as a storm gets in this country. You know, reporters weren't in the middle of the street pointing to a pile of bricks that used to be a chimney and calling it a disaster. And we'll go back to the scene now for an update. What can you tell us? What's happened? Nothing, really. That's fascinating. We'll be back in 5 minutes. And over and over and over they go. But then that's the problem with 24-hour television news. They're desperate for pictures all the time, and they just keep saying the same thing over and over and over again.
You see, this morning they spent about 10 minutes waiting for them to blow up a hotel in Las Vegas.
Which one?
I can't remember the name, but obviously a disused one.
Oh, no guests.
No.
Still there.
Alas, no, well, not anymore anymore, anyway. They were on it for about 10 minutes waiting for this hotel to explode, and even at this point the presenters were going, not much to tell you now.
What's the latest? Well,
It's
nothing.
still there.
Yeah, exactly. And did it? Did it eventually blow up?
It eventually went.
It exploded, and was it worth waiting for?
No.
No.
There's a big fireworks show around it, though. They made a big deal of it.
Well, you should have said fireworks.
Very pretty.
Barnet. Hello, David.
Actually, it's Finchley, but I'll let you off that one, Nick. How you going?
I'm all right, thanks.
That song of Stan Getz, I don't think so. That was Astra Gilberto.
Astra Gilberto is the right answer. Yes.
I get points for that.
You get maximum points for that, David. Unfortunately, points don't mean prizes on this show.
That's the same. And also, it wasn't jazz, it was bossa nova.
Yeah, it was only barely. Well, bossa nova, you could argue, is a subsect of jazz. You remember Venn diagrams?
I don't.
You don't? No. All right. Well, I'll stop right there. Yeah, you could say that bossa nova is a part of jazz. It intersects slightly. But I believe that Stan Getz maybe did have something to do with that track, but Astra Gilberto is what it was the singer.
Yeah, but that's, if you picked up the record, that's what it would stay on.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah.
So
I was completely correct in every respect.
I'm glad to hear it.
Right, thanks a lot, David.
Of music?
You what, sorry?
Is that your genre of music, then?
I still missed that, I'm sorry.
I said, is that your genre of music?
Well, I like everything. There isn't a genre, and I do hate that word. It's the G word. I just used the G word, Helen. The genre. I said genre on the air. I've said it 3 times now. No, I like everything. How can you not like a bit of every type of music? To close your mind off from a whole genre, there it is again, doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I can get my head across rap.
Rap?
Yeah, I just can't. I can't stomach it. It absolutely drives me berserk. It sounds like mindless droning to me.
Really?
Yeah.
A drone, you say? I find that hard to believe. All right, thanks a lot, David.
Cheerio.
Ta-ta. No, there's a lot of rap that's good. All rap doesn't start with a C. Here's Chislehurst. Hello, Rob.
Hello.
Rob.
Listen, Nick, nice to speak to you. If you want to check out definitively your congestion zone, ring them up.
Yeah.
And they'll just tell you straight whether or not there's a fee due for that day.
Okay.
I do it constantly, because I'm in and around just south of the city, and I can never remember, and I'll just phone them up, and they just say, no, there's not a fee due today. I think you've got to wait half an hour after the end of the time.
Yeah.
But I've always found them really efficient.
Huh. Isn't that incredible?
I know, and another thing, bird's custard, I bought some in Chesterfield today.
I'm glad to hear it. There's one British tradition that hasn't bit the dust. All right, thanks a lot, Rob.
See you later.
Ta-ra. I could do with a couple of pints of that right now. What do you say? Let's have Cricklewood. Hello, Derek.
Hi, Nick.
Derek.
Yeah, you mentioned not long ago about another batch of illegals sort of pulled out from thin air. I just feel now there's such apathy amongst us, myself included, I suppose, that I don't think the government. I think even the government, by some miracle, found that an MP was an illegal immigrant. I just don't think it would bother them because there's not much scares me in this life, but a couple of months ago we were told in about 20 years we're going to have about 75 million people in this country. To bring it home, and yesterday I travelled from North London to Walthamstow in East London. It took me almost 2 hours. I left at 5:30. I got there at 7:30. That's about 20 miles.
I feel your pain.
You don't feel it. You don't feel it.
No, I do feel your pain.
My daughter, she's 18 now, and she's looking at, well, she's not looking now, but in about 2 or 3 years' time, she's going to have to buy her own place. And it's going to be impossible for her because, I mean, where she's going to buy, I mean, even the estate agents say almost everything now is bought as a buy-to-let. And I don't blame the people coming over, but it's all I mean, when you live in a country where you earn a fifth what you would earn here, for example, Slovakia, Lithuania, them types of countries. I mean, we've got 400,000 16 and 24-year-olds out of work. I mean, I'm a contracts manager in the building trade, and...
Well, you must be thrilled with the Poles that have come over here. I mean, they're tremendous workers and are very skilled and cheap, right?
Well, they're the same as British people. They're the same.
But that's not what I hear. I hear that they're much better workers, more reliable and, more efficient, and they show up on time and do the job and are significantly less expensive. No?
Well, I started when I was 16 as apprentice carpenter 20 years ago. About 3 years ago, I became a contracts manager, and so I've seen it all. There's good and bad in the Eastern Europeans as there are in the Brits.
Right, that's just people, isn't it?
That's people, yeah.
People are people. I think Barbara Streisand said that.
She most probably did, yeah. But I mean,
what does a contract manager do?
A contracts manager, as it said, just looks after the contracts, makes sure the job runs on...
Right, so it's a stupid question then, really. The clue's in the title, contracts manager. So you're part of the building trade. Is it all doom and gloom over there now?
This country, I see. I'm not a pessimistic person, believe it or not, Nick. But I feel this country, it's just too blooming crowded. And
no, I mean the question was about the state of the building trade, because barely a day goes by now. In fact, a day does not go by before without reading this one report or other that says that the building trade is on a gentle slope down to doom. So is that your experience?
No, the building trade, there's so much work about, but unfortunately, if you're a British guy with a young family and you're a tradesman, you haven't got a chance, because you're seeing housing going up to ridiculous levels, and you're on the same money as you were 5 or 6 years ago. That's why I got off the tools.
Right. Well, hold your breath, Derek, because I think the tide has turned and the prices are on the way south.
I don't think so. It won't happen. Because
I think it is happening.
Not in London, the South East, it won't happen, because when you think there's 250,000 net coming in and they're only building about 160,000 units, the some tell you that they might drop, 10% north of St Albans, but that's about it. But nope.
All right.
They're not going to crash.
Okay, that's the word from the inside. You do sound like a pessimist, Derek.
I am about immigration, yeah.
Right, okay. Well, cheer up, mate. It's not as bad as all that.
It is.
But listen,
it is.
It is. Oh, well, I got that one wrong.
Terrible.
Thanks for sorting me out on that. Cheers, mate. It's 8:45. Here is Karen Mercer with travel.
There's an accident.
Open their big mouths and out came talk. Talk.
Wallington. Hello, Joan.
Hello, Nick. You know how busy the police are, and they can't come to crimes, and they're just so taken up with important stuff.
Yes.
Well, something very strange is happening in Lambeth at the moment, because yesterday friends of mine were out in their car, the wife was driving, the husband was in the passenger seat, and the 2 kids were in the back. And suddenly they were pulled over by the police. Will you please get out of the car? Stand there. Very officious. And so they said, after the shock, they said, well, what's wrong? What have we done? And the policeman actually said, you were wiping the dashboard with a cloth. This was to the husband who was in the passenger seat. You were wiping the dashboard with a cloth with your gloves on.
What?
You were wiping?
The dashboard of the car.
Yeah. With a cloth?
With a cloth with your gloves on.
Right. Well, that's obviously a very serious matter.
And said, why were you wiping the dashboard with a cloth, with your gloves on?
Right.
I mean...
I don't understand.
It's beyond belief.
He said, why were you wiping the dashboard of your car?
Yes.
Was it that they were wearing gloves and that was the problem? Or was
they can only think that this is what they're thinking, that they were actually wearing gloves.
I was stopped by, but the only time I've been so far stopped by a policeman, it was in in Holland Park, and I was walking back to the squalor of my own lounge, and it was February. Freezing cold it was outside. I expected there was snow on the ground. And I was wearing gloves, as a normal person would. And they stopped me. Maybe it's a glove thing. He stopped me, and it's like, where are you going? Where have you been? What's your name? Where do you live? And I asked him, because I was really drunk at the time, I said, why are you stopping me? I didn't say it like that. I was much more polite than that. And he said, because you're wearing gloves.
My God.
And I said, well, I think I internalised
a lot of your stuff.
The part that is coming next, I don't think I actually said out loud because you don't want to get beaten to the ground.
You don't want to do that, do you?
No, I said, well, internally, I said, what, blooming cold, innit?
Yeah, and the other thing that happened, which is
what was that? Well, how did it end? This little scenario.
Of course, everyone started laughing because they asked him to explain, and he said, well. My daughter had a wet wipe for her mouth and threw it at me, so I thought, I might as well use that. I wiped the dashboard.
Right.
And the children, they all simply couldn't look at it at all serious and just started laughing.
Yeah, driving a car in possession of a wet wipe, very serious offence.
And the other thing that's happened, but in the Brixton area, and that's going back a couple of weeks, another friend was actually overtook a lorry putting along at about 20 miles an hour, and it was all a bit tricky, and he had to nip out and nip round the front. You know, you're in traffic. And he was pulled up by the police.
For overtaking a lorry?
For aggressively overtaking. And all he'd done was overtake. Now, what is going on in Lambeth?
Well, did they mark this down? Did they take their details and did they sort of write it up as a crime solved?
Well, they certainly took down details, yes.
Right. Well, maybe that's what it is. Because if they give you a caution or a warning or something like that, apparently they can tick a box and that's a crime solved.
Yes.
In much the same way.
I think they're definitely trying to list up some stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's coming to the end of the year, and
you haven't got enough. Yes.
Well, as is the case at the end of financial years, companies will start to, throwing their hands in the air and run screaming to the catalogue to buy just anything, because unless they spend their entire budget, their overlords will think, oh well, you don't need that much money next year.
Well,
then.
they certainly do it around March, don't they?
Right. So maybe it's the same with the police, and if you don't tick all your boxes by whenever your yearly quota is up. Then,
it's a good way of saying, yes, they're dealing with crime, isn't it?
Yes. And I think that if you solve, in inverted commas, a case like that, it's a tick in the box.
Absolutely.
That's equal to solving a serial killer. That is also one tick in the box.
They're not going to come anywhere near criminals, are they?
Well,
not when they've got people wiping dashboards and gloves. I mean, good grief.
It's very dangerous to coming near criminals.
Nasty business. Well, there you go. I just wondered.
Thanks for the bad news, Joe.
Okay.
Right, cheers.
Bye-bye now.
Ta-da. Yes, this has been, I want to talk about the immigration officials' bonus, by the way. Write that down and remind me later, okay? You can put that on the list of topics that I start and don't finish.
You've done quite well tonight.
Which will be, yeah, I have. It's been fairly linear. You can put it next to the list of the topics we talked about. How many's on that list?
Few.
Few. She just held up a completely blank piece of paper.
No, look.
Nothing on there.
Can you not see that?
There's absolutely nothing on that piece of paper. Police are letting dangerous criminals slip through the net because they're too busy concentrating on minor offences, in order to meet government targets, a former chief constable has warned.
Yeah.
Government targets. It's the dead hand of a government target that's ruining almost everything. Peter, the chief executive of the National Policing Improvement Agency, claims that catching a murderer now carries no more importance than arresting someone for stealing a pint of milk. The former chief constable, who heads the organisation, set up 6 months ago to improve policing in England and Wales, said that over the past 5 years, police had focused on increasing the number of so-called offences brought to justice in a bid to meet targets. He said there has been, in the minds of many professionals, me included, a neglect of the serious. Police forces in the criminal justice system were set ambitious targets by the government of bringing in at least 1.25 million offences a year to justice by this year. They have already surpassed this figure. And in the 12 months leading up to June this year, 1.4 million offences were brought to justice, with the result that now the Chief of the Metropolitan Police can say with certainty that people in Hackney can sleep easily in their beds at night and leave their front doors open. There is such a lack of crime over there. He actually said that. An offence is classified as being brought to justice when an offender has either been cautioned, convicted, given a fixed penalty notice, or a warning, which might have been the case here. Excuse me, sir. Do you realise that you've been wiping your dashboard with a wet wipe? This is an official warning. And you get a tick in the box, just as if you'd solved the Ripper murders. They say that the target-driven culture is diverting police from properly investigating more serious crimes. So that's the reason why. Joan?
LBC. Do you mind if I say a few words? Thank you.
Hertfordshire. Hello, Gary.
Hello, Nick.
Gary.
Hello.
Yes, Gary.
I've just caught the end of, I think there was a couple of people before, conversation about paying the congestion charge and about phoning up and checking to see whether there was a congestion charge owing on a vehicle. You could do it half an hour or an hour before the end to see.
Right.
The question I wanted to know, or I'd like somebody to answer for me, is why, when we pay such an exorbitant amount for road tax on our vehicles, should we be paying a congestion charge in the first place? I mean, surely, when we pay our road tax, giving us the entitlement to drive on the road, we should be able to drive through the centre of London with our road tax and not have to pay a congestion charge? Or is it the fact that when we're driving through the centre of London, we can take our tax disc out and forget that we've got it?
Well, I think that all arguments in that respect are, the time is up on those arguments. The questions have been asked and dismissed, and they went ahead and did it anyway.
Well, I understand they went ahead and did it anyway, but, I mean, it riles me up because my road tax on my vehicle, I drive a Land Rover Discovery, my road tax on that is nearly £300 a year, and the road tax on my truck is nearly £300 a year. It just gets to me that I'm paying nearly £600 a year on road tax, yet I still have to pay £8 a day if I happen to go into the centre of London.
Why do you have a Land Rover, Gary?
Because I live out in the country.
Right.
I live out in the other side of Hertfordshire, and I drive through the country to get to my workshop where I work in Chester. But I also do some business in London as well with the trucks.
So there's mud up your way.
There's plenty of mud up my way. Yeah.
Right. It's not just a fashion statement.
No, it definitely isn't. Because if it was, I would own a new one, not an old. Reasonably old Land Rover.
Yeah. You got cows up your way. Yeah. Okay, well, I feel your pain, Gary, but we're fresh out of time, I'm afraid. But thanks a lot anyway, all right?
Okay, all right.
Cheers. Ta-da. The new news now, some of it will be good, I'm certain of it.
Never safe on this hostile planet.
Immigration officials involved in a string of fiascos have been paid a bonus. Guess how much? That's right, £7 million of your money. Staff at the Immigration and Nationality Directorate of the Home Office got nearly £2 million in bonuses last year alone. Flawed data from the IND, for that's what they call it. Now the Border and Immigration Agency were blamed for the government omitting 300,000 foreign-born workers from the immigration figures given to Parliament last month. And this week, the Home Office admitted that up to 5,000 illegal immigrants may have been hired as security guards. Despite vetting by its officials. The officials of this company, this organisation rather, this Quango, that has just been paid £7 million in bonuses. Leanne Byrne, the Immigration Minister, said that the payments were made to staff, and this is a quote, based on their exceptional contribution throughout the year. That's a new and unfamiliar use of the word exceptional that I'm not used to. What do they mean by that? Here is Bermondsey. Peter.
Yeah, good evening, Nick. Yeah, I think these people who phone in and complain about the open door policy on immigration, I often wonder who do they vote for? Because if you go to the voting, the vast majority of people vote Liberal and Labour, and in consequence they're actually voting for an open door policy. So you can't blame immigration coming into the country because most of them need the money, and with our own, too many of our own don't want to do these jobs. So in consequence, I think it's inevitable, and I do think people should look at themselves, blaming the government. I mean, I know we've got what's known as a parliamentary democracy, and a basic democracy really is a minority of people telling the majority of people what to do. So I do think these people, I do notice on talk shows, a lot of them who phone in, if we could only get them to be honest and say, well, did you vote and who did you vote for? And you'll probably find they're actually voting for the party that believes in an open door policy. So it's all rather pointless when they make these statements when they're part and parcel of the problem.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I really don't want a conversation about immigration on this show because
I know
it's not really what I do. But
it's too heavy, I know, Nick.
But I have to say yes and no. I mean, if they don't vote at all, then well, I suppose you can still moan. But I don't think the statement that if you don't vote, then you don't get a say. That's not quite true. Because people don't vote for the reason that they don't believe what any politician tells them anymore.
That's a good point. Because when in the Standard tonight, they was giving some questionnaires and what people were answering to was totally contrary to what they had answered a question earlier. And
yes.
Thought, where on earth are they going?
Well, it very much depends on how you ask the question.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I'm going like the bus lanes, you know. When people complain about the C charge, it's a contract. The whole lot is a contract. And, I mean, before I lost my leg, I used to work with a company that delivered to QuickFit, yeah? And the business basically went down because as soon as the congestion charge came in, the people wouldn't go there for obvious reasons, you know, £5 a day. And then we get the bus lanes that appear. Now, in the area where I live, say Deptford, right the way down Jamaica Road, we have got permanent bus lanes in sort of 12 hours a day for 6 days a week.
Yeah, it's kind of irritating, isn't it?
Totally, yeah, but it's totally pointless. And you have to wonder, are they there so that if somebody just drifts into them and they get nicked, and you know, and as I say,
a way of raising money, exactly.
Well, yeah, because with Mr. Livingston, he needs to get all this money. You know, I hate the man being called Ken because Londoners, irrespective of our race and creed, this man is no friend of ours, and he's up to all manner of ways trying to get money for his own pet little schemes. And when Lady T threw him out, all right, I know it wasn't democracy, but when she threw him out 20 years ago, we never really noticed him and his empire going. And now he's creating another one now, and he's got to get this money to keep it going. And you ask any Londoner, again, irrespective of colour or creed, that whoever's voting for him, God only knows, and he won't tell us.
All right. Thanks a lot, Peter.
Okay, Nick.
Cheers, mate. Ta-ra. But people do vote not because of what politicians say they're going to do, because we don't believe them anymore. We just vote for the least worst of the people that are available. That and whoever you think came across nice on telly. It's like I've said before, the Americanisation of British politics is complete. We vote now for people that we think that we like, that we would consider it appropriate to go down to the pub and have a drink with, which is why I think that people have taken to David Cameron. And if you remember, just a month or so ago, David Cameron was an absolute hopeless loser in the eyes of this country, and then almost overnight he was in the ascendancy, and he had beaten the unassailable lead, it seemed, that Gordon Brown had at the time. And the nation turned around on a sixpence for no reason that anybody can recall. Why did we switch our allegiance so rapidly from one to the other? And Gordon Brown, who, when he took over, people expected to be a giant disaster for Labour, was being written up as well. He's got the longest honeymoon period that anybody had expected, and he's just doing tremendously well. And the nation is sighing in relief that at least there's somebody who's serious after the showbiz years of Tony Blair. And we were all nodding sagely in agreement. Yes, that's right. This is just the sort of chap that we want. You know, a bit of gravity at the top. And then, from one second to the next, we completely changed our minds. And can you actually put it into words why we did that? It's because we saw David Cameron on the TV and we thought, oh, he's nice. We changed our minds. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is kind of silly, really, isn't it, when you think about it? So people don't vote for a party because they say we're going to close the doors on immigration or we're going to put a bus lane here and there. You just do it because you think, oh, such a nice man, like that. Here is Catford. Hello, Trixie.
I knew you'd come straight to me. Oh, Jeffrey, come back.
Why?
Oh, he can talk about this topic far better than I.
He could talk about anything for England.
Yes, but he would have been perfect as the next caller.
Right.
I know he's been on, but...
Well, I don't necessarily want to talk... In fact, I don't really want to talk about that at all. I'd much rather go back talking about puddings.
Oh, I was about to talk about acne drug causes suicide, raises suicide risks.
Right. Roaccutane.
Yeah, 19 attempted suicides. I mean, and 31 patients considering suicide.
Well, you could say that that Jeremy Kyle causes suicide, because, I mean, I thought about killing myself when I saw that show.
I'm doing a Joan Rivers here as we speak. Is this people with acne didn't have problems to deal with?
Well, yeah, I mean, you see, the company that makes Roaccutane would suggest that acne itself makes you seriously depressed, and although it's considered by people who don't have it a bit of a trivial complaint, it really isn't, because you just don't want to leave the house.
Yes, and of course the problem is that because it interferes with the brain's use of serotonin, then that makes them depressed, and that antidepressants of course affect the serotonin. So
yeah, there's another thing that affects the serotonin levels of people. All those people that have been dancing their face off in clubs for the past 20 years or so, you're all going to get it too.
Yeah. Who was it said? Somebody said, I don't know if it's on this show or I heard it on LBC anyway, that our parents' generation is the only generation that's going to live the longest. Perhaps you said it.
Well, yes, possibly right, because they used to, or probably still, they cook food from scratch. They're not fat.
They didn't overeat. Sometimes they were near starvation at times.
Well, that's right. Apparently, a little bit of hunger is good for you, which makes sense because physically we haven't changed that much since we lived in caves, and we always used to be hungry then.
And
you could nip out to Sainsbury's.
Old age, aren't they?
What?
They are reaping the rewards of severe old age. And
they used to be active when they were young. You remember being active, don't you?
No.
I do, yeah. Oh. I was a real tomboy.
Right.
I was very hot in those days.
Okay. But no, you're right. That might very well be true. Despite the advances in medical science, we're going to be dropping like flies as compared to our parents, who are going to be living on forever. Yeah. Sucking us financially dry.
Absolutely. But seriously, it is pretty bad news for people who really want to get rid of their acne. I do feel...
Well, these are quite isolated incidents, though, aren't they? I mean, it's all very serious, each and every case, but a lot of people have taken Roaccutane with no side effects whatsoever.
No, that's true. That's true. And by the way, pregnant women should not use it.
Well, pregnant women shouldn't do anything.
No, absolutely.
They should be sitting down at all times with a fag and a cocktail.
Oh, no. But they do say that kids are being hospitalised. Kids shouldn't be hospitalised. I think, what did they say, about 13 are hospitalised every year or something.
For what?
13, yes. Binge drinking puts 13 children in...
Oh, you switched topics.
Every day. I'm good at that.
I got no idea what you were talking about. Suddenly you're talking about kids getting hospitalised, but you didn't tell us you had changed the subject.
Yeah, I'm doing a Nick Abbott. You see, I'm trying to confuse you. Like,
right. Well, I'm trailing around in your wake, blind and confused.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
Binge drinking puts 13 children in hospital every day.
Oh, well.
Yeah, all right, we'll get off that.
Never
all right.
mind.
So what about this bird flu, then?
Oh, blimey. Not another new topic.
Oh, no.
We're all going to die, Trixie.
Puddings, isn't it? Bird flu.
Oh, I see what you did there.
I'm very today, Nick.
He, yeah.
I haven't got, the...
I get it.
You got it. You didn't play my tune.
You haven't got one?
I have, But I can't say the rest of it because I haven't got it.
Oh, right.
I just got it.
That one. Anyway, unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Oh, no.
But thanks anyway.
Hey, listen, take care.
Ta-da.
Bye.
9:15. Here's Travel Now with Karen Mercer.
Well, I'm keeping my eye...
Absolutely. Now, I know that this is a topic that's been exercising people on this station all day long, and I disagree with each and every one of you. It's about drinking. All-day drinking laws introduced by Labour are condemned today by leading academics for failing to curb Britain's culture of binge drinking. Well, whoever thought that it would? I mean, come on, have you spent any time in this country? Deaths from alcohol have doubled since the early 90s, according to a major study. Well, you know, that might possibly be because of many and various things. The number of deaths through alcohol might be exactly the same. It just might be that they are that the deaths have been ascribed to alcohol more readily than they used to be. They used to be perhaps that they said, "Oh well, he's just dead." Now, of course, they want to meet targets and prove that what they're saying is correct, and so they examine further. That might be the case. Measures to combat binge drinking have failed, and the controversy. I wasn't aware that there were any measures. You familiar with any measures? No. I think they just completely ignored it because, well, how are you going to combat binge drinking? I mean, what are you going to actually do other than handcuff people to the radiator in their home?
More tax on booze?
That's not going to make the slightest bit of difference, but that's what they're suggesting. I'll get to that in a second. It says tax on alcohol must be increased, and the hours that bars and shops are allowed to sell drinks should be restricted. No, it shouldn't. Lord Krebs, the chairman of this committee who produced the report, said the government should implement tougher measures to tackle excessive drinking. Won't make the slightest bit of difference. Well, what about prohibitions? Like I said at the top of the show, that's about as strict a law on alcohol as we've had in the West, and that didn't make the slightest bit of difference either. I mean, the entire industry, an entire illegal industry grew, and people like Al Capone got fat on people's desire to drink. It ain't going to stop. Prohibition of any kind doesn't work. It has never worked anywhere. I mean, for instance, drugs are illegal. They are prohibited. They've been prohibited for the past, 50 years, 60 years, however long it's been. Today, more people are taking more drugs which are cheaper than ever before. How is that whole war on drugs going?
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The report says evidence of the World Health Organization that restricting the availability of alcohol is effective for reducing binge drinking stands in contrast to the government's policy of extending opening hours for pubs and bars. Well, you know what? That some people can't handle it is not a good reason for the rest of us to suffer. I mean, do you remember that supermarkets used to have to put a cover over the drinks section, the fridges, at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon? And between 2 and 7, it was illegal to buy alcohol. And, of course, you just had lunch. You want to go home. You want to watch a black and white movie in the afternoon. It's Sunday, for crying out loud. You want to relax, right? And you had forgotten, because of this ludicrous law, to actually buy your booze before 2. And you showed up at the supermarket, and they would not let you buy any till 7. Can you remember how irritating that used to be? They want to go back to that. Like, everyone has to suffer because a few people can't handle their drink. Ludicrous. They're just obsessed with ever more laws.
Were the off licences open?
No, everything had to close.
Everything was shut. What about the pubs? Were they open?
No, well, pubs used to. I mean, I worked in a pub for 3 years, and I can remember that they used to close at lunch, 3 till 5:30. With the result that people would, the people that would stay in pubs all day would get absolutely hammered at 3:30. I mean, the people that didn't have jobs to go to, and then queue out the door for 5 o'clock opening. So nobody drank any less because the pubs closed. Nobody drank any less. I mean, if you have a problem with alcohol, and the shops stop selling it at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, it doesn't mean to say that you're going to not be imbibing for the rest of the afternoon. You'll just get them in before 2, right? Absolutely ridiculous. The aim of creating a continental-style cafe culture has clearly failed, says Lord Krebs. Well, nobody seriously thought that we were going to become a continental cafe culture, because that's not in our makeup. We've never done that. I mean, you go to France, and right enough, it does seem very sophisticated, because people sit around with a glass of wine and an espresso, and they talk about philosophy for hour upon endless hour, and watch the ladies go by. In this country, we just don't do that. We have never done that. That's not in part of the Anglo-Saxon makeup. So no amount of laws one way or the other is going to have any effect on how we treat alcohol. That's just who we are. We tend to, for some reason, abuse, if you want to use that phrase, stimulants more than any other country in the world. Isn't that incredible? We like to think of ourselves as very stiff upper lip and, together and undemonstrative and so on and so forth. But we smoke more dope, we take more coke, we have more speed, we drop more E's, we pop, snort and glug everything more than any other place on the planet. Amazing. Us, little old Britain. We're number one. The stats on violence and crime, alcohol and A&E admissions are still disputed, it says here. Well, I'm glad that they said that, because yes, they are. Do you remember that about a month or so ago, the statistics came out, and I can't remember which body produced them. I know it wasn't the drinks industry, but some people that had access to the NHS records said that since 24-hour opening, admissions into hospitals had actually gone down. That it had had the required effect that people weren't cramming them in before 11 o'clock and all spilling out into the road at the same time. Because that used to be the problem, we seem to forget, that everybody got kicked out at the same time in an advanced state of inebriation at 11 o'clock, and then they started battering seven bells out of each other. And it was because we wanted to avoid that, and, step into the new millennium, catch up with the rest of the world, that we decided to let the leash off. And now we want to go back. Well, much like going back and living at your parents' house when, after you've left, you can never go back. You can't show people freedom and then take it away from them. And no politician will do that, by the way, because nobody will vote for them again. They're not going to do it. Professor Roger Brownsword.
What?
Of a bioethicist. What's that? What's a bioethicist? Exactly. From King's College in London says, the council recommends that the government needs to think hard about more stringent interventions, particularly in relation to opening hours. We don't need any more interventions. We just need to use the laws that we already have. This is the thing they seem to be obsessed with. I think part of the reason that they're obsessed with creating ever more laws is because it looks like they're doing something. The history of the present administration seems to be that in the if there's evidence that something is wrong and that the people are concerned about something, they'll pass a law which will intersect with a law that already exists, but they're not doing anything about. They equally will not do anything about the law that they've just passed. They won't actually follow it up and go through with what they're saying they're going to do. But they passed a law which will get your headlines in the press, but then they don't have to do anything about it. It's like I'm gonna, I'm gonna, but then they don't actually do it. So it's, again, mendacity and obfuscation. I want you to write those two words down.
Oh. What was the second one?
The report coincides with the launch of the Alcohol Health Alliance, a group of 22 health organisations lobbying for a 10% increase in tax on alcohol to stem binge drinking. That last part, they'll do that. An increase in tax, well, they'll be fully on board with that. But will a 10% increase on booze stem binge drinking?
No.
Of course not, Carol. Not even for Carol. It won't make the slightest bit of difference. At all. I mean, how could it? But everybody that is just sitting at home, enjoying a glass of red in the squalor of their own lounge, they'll have to stump up more just because some drunks in Colchester or Richmond or Sucky Hall Street in Glasgow, wherever it might be, are falling flat on their back, fumbling to get in the back of a cab. Why should we all suffer just because they can't handle their booze? And no matter what a government does, it won't make the slightest bit of difference. Our relationship with alcohol, as is the same with any stimulant, is very close and personal, and whatever it is, we want more of it. We don't care what it is. As long as it comes in rainbow colours and tastes like sweets, we'll have some of that. Pick a hole in what I've just said. Go ahead, I double dare you. In fact, I'll drink to that.
I'll drink with you.
I'd like a margarita, a pint of lager,
double rum and coke,
a Long Island iced tea.
We've got all this downstairs, yeah?
I'll have a lager top, pint of cider, but I want you to put that all in a bucket and give me a straw. All right.
LBC. 97 points. It's a good idea to get someone else's opinion.
Crystal Palace. Hello, Will.
Hey, Nick.
Will.
Nick, have you seen that story in the paper about the guy who put a 6-month-old kitten in a tumble dryer and killed him?
No. Don't think we want to go any further than that. Here is South Norwood. Hello, Philip.
Oh, good evening, Nick.
Philip.
Reading the story in the paper, and I thought it might be of interest to people of England as well. It's a story about America, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
The residents in America are protesting against train horns.
They are revolting?
Yeah. Well, what it is, Nick, I mean, you've been to America, you know, that some of the crossings, when the trains go across, there's no level crossing. And they sound the horns, ring the bells,
and by the way, that is one of the loveliest sounds in the whole wide world. The American train horn.
Yeah.
It's 2 notes, I think. It's either 2 or 3, and to hear that in the distance is it's evocative of a life that we never had, but wished we did.
The people in America are not too keen on it.
Well, that's ridiculous.
It says that communities are going to be allowed to create quiet zones.
Right.
What it means is that they'll be given a certain amount of money to make proper level crossings, security barriers, so that the trains won't have to make that noise that we like.
Right.
It says the federal rule, for the first time, limited train horns volume to 110 decibels.
Well, I suppose if you're living next to the track, then it might get a bit annoying, in much the same way as church bells are annoying if you live next door. But from a distance, as they drift over the green fields, then it's just unutterably lovely.
It says there's 147 public crossings in America. I'm not sure that's the complete total, it's just a selection they've got here. But I agree with you. I mean, when I was there in Wyoming, we stopped off in Wyoming and we went across one of these tracks. And, because there's over there, I mean, the goods trains, I mean, they've got I counted about 40.
Well, some of them are a mile long.
Yeah.
They go forever.
And one went by, and I thought, oh, that'll be it. And then a few minutes later, another one.
Yeah.
And so it set me wondering, Nick, do the people in this country, I mean, people who live around Clapham Junction and main stations and have got railways at the back of their gardens, do they just get used to the sound of the trains going by?
Well, I would say no. I mean, because when trains go by, there's no blocking it out.
No. Although because they've been criticised, haven't they, British Rail, because they've been chopping down trees, which I suppose was a barrier to people's, the sound of the trains.
Well, you know what? We just went through an entire autumn.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't quite got out the other end yet, but there has been not one complaint about leaves on the line.
That's right.
Huh.
I think some trains have altered the times. I mean, I did see a notice saying that they slightly altered the time of the trains, that the journey times, to take into account leaves on the line.
Right.
So, but as I say, I mean, I agree with you what you just said about the noise. It's where have you ever ridden by train in America?
No, I haven't. But I only am familiar with the noise that trains make from American films.
Yeah. I mean, because the old days they used to be, really, really luxury. So I'm told. You really had to really be well off to travel on them.
Is that right?
Yeah, so they say. And of course, then now you've got Amtrak.
I think almost the reverse is true now.
Yeah. I've travelled on the Canadian trains, and the Via Rail, they call them.
Oh, yeah. And
found them, pretty good.
We don't have very romantic-sounding trains, do we? They go, which is, there's nothing romantic about that. But as American trains, on the other hand, and I'll probably get this completely wrong, it won't sound anything like it. In my mind, it's a perfect reflection of the sound that they make. It goes something like... See, that's rubbish, isn't it? No, it doesn't go woo-woo. It's just one note. It's one, how would you say it? It's 2 notes, but just in one long, I know I'm not musical, but in one long, how would you put it? It goes,
I don't know, really.
Something
that's
like
that. That is it.
See?
That is it.
Completely correct.
I tell you, it's great to sleep on a train.
Is it?
Oh, I slept on a Canadian train, and when the only time was that I woke up when the train stopped.
Yeah.
Which it did in the middle of the night. And then when the train started again, I went back to sleep.
Right. Rocked to sleep you were?
Yeah, this was going across the plains of Manitoba on a BRL to...
on a chuff-chuff train?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wonderful. No, you wouldn't get that on the Waterloo train, would you?
Well, no, but people do go to sleep on them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so override their journey. And then
go to sleep on them, go to the bathroom on them, all sorts of disgusting things.
Anyway, Nick, that's all.
Is it?
Yep.
Brief and to the point. Thanks a lot,
Nick.
Philip.
Okay, bye.
Ta-ra. Speaking of which, here's Waterloo. Hello, Paul.
How you doing, Nick?
All right, thanks.
Good. Basically, I'll tell you what, mate, I've been listening to you for I feel depressed. I feel so depressed, it's unbelievable.
Why?
Well, we are, as a nation, being hoodwinked and conned, and there's no way out. We've got no alternative party to turn to. We're being robbed left, right and centre. And it makes me think, as well as hundreds of thousands of people while they're leaving this country, it's knackered, mate. It's finished.
Well, don't be depressed about it. If there's nothing you can do about it, Paul, then it's not something to be depressed about.
Do you enjoy going for a drink?
Yes.
I bet you're mature when you have a drink.
I don't like to get out of control drunk. I just don't like that.
But the government will see you as the person to stop the problem that they have created.
I don't believe that that's the case. I think they'll see me as the sucker who they can tax more to make it look like they're doing something about the people who can't handle their drink.
Well, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. At the end of the day, you're the one with the pocket, with the money. Even though you're mature when you drink and you go out with friends and family, you're the one that's going to suffer, as well as hundreds of thousands all across the country that go for a couple of pints in the evening or whatever.
Yeah.
They're the ones they're going to take the money from.
Right, most of us, yeah.
Whereas the kids, now you've got to remember something. Think about what I'm saying now. We created a problem over 30 years ago with the lack of discipline in schools. You reap what you sow, okay? I can take you to I won't say the names, any supermarket at 10 o'clock on a Friday or 10 o'clock on a Saturday. Kids are queuing up to buy booze.
Yeah,
okay?
and if they can't personally get served, then they'll collar you going in and tell you to buy it for them.
Exactly.
Or they'll stab you.
And not only that, to a certain element as well, the way that we've created this problem over the years. Now think about this as well. You've got more and more young youth living at home because they can't afford the rent on property nowadays. They can't afford to buy. So their income that they've got, once they've give their mother their, whatever it is, 40 or 50 pounds, they've got a lot of disposable income in their pockets.
Yeah.
Come Thursday, Friday and Saturday, I'm not just talking about the kids here now, I'm not talking about the 15-year-olds that you see getting blind drunk over the course of a weekend. I'm talking about the 18, this age thing where people want to bring it in, 21. I see them in the city, in the West End, on a Saturday night, and they're in their 30s, maybe in their 20s, say. Okay? And it's because they got a lot more disposable income. They're living at home with mum and dad, they've got the money, and that's it. There's no future for them. Come the weekend, the only thing they can do is, go and have a right little shant down the road. And that's, if you look at society the way not only this government, the previous governments have done, we've created these problems within our society, and that's why we're known as the worst in Europe.
It's kind of shocking, but but we are known as the worst in Europe, and all the statistics point to the fact that that's true. Yeah.
I was in Greece over the summer. Oh, it was fantastic. The culture of having a drink and having a meal, and the bars staying open till late, and it was a completely. I was in a place that was predominantly. It was a place called Halkidiki, which is predominantly all the Greeks go there for their holidays. You didn't have the British lout or whatever, the lager lout as such as what the English are known for when they go abroad.
Well, you're right there. It is often a bit of a surprise because although I'm not a lager lout, I do like to have a drink every now and again. It's completely normal. And when you do go abroad to France, say, or Amsterdam or Spain or whatever it might be, you do feel that no one else is drinking but you.
But you feel that you have to... See, this is the way I look at it, Nick. When I go to a decent place like that, I enjoy it. I embrace their sort of way of life. So that if you can do that, you enjoy yourself better. And I think, you know, no matter where I've been, if I've been on holiday and I've been to a place that's predominantly British, I've never enjoyed it. You know,
yeah,
and you
well,
look
I
at the
do.
way-
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, when I go on holiday, I much prefer not to meet a single other British person.
I want to ask you another personal question. It's not a personal question. Another question, quick one. This smoking ban that came in,
Yeah.
okay? Now, as a smoker myself, I'm not against the element of the way that they've had to curtail the smoking to non-smokers. But don't you think, living in the society we've got, that they're treating us like children? Don't you think there should have been a choice between having non-smokers, having pubs that had no smoking, and pubs that, if they wanted to have smoking in, they should have been allowed?
Right. No.
Why would you say that?
Because on the subject of smoking, I'm a complete fascist. No. I hate going out to bars, because pubs would, if they had the choice, they'd just say, well, we'll just carry on, people can smoke, and if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. But if they all say that, and if you're going out with someone who does smoke, then you don't want to make a fuss, and so you'll just go where they want to go, and you come home, and you just stink of the stuff, and I hate
Well, I
that.
understand what you're saying then. So then, what I'm trying, I'd love to pack up smoking, but this is the way I could pack up smoking. Instead of answering to a hypocritical government that want to take the revenue, which adds up to £8 billion per year, I think to myself, hang on, well, why don't you, if you think smoking's so bad, stop selling cigarettes?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, unfortunately, we're a bit past that point, and if they did that, then all the people that smoke wouldn't vote for the person who just put that policy through. So that I think they'll try and wean you off it slowly. But anyway, I don't want to get into should we smoke or not, should we drink or not. Yes, I'll back that up, but not smoking. But anyway, thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks, Nick.
By the way, smokers, by the way, are going to be fined for smoking in their own car. Did you read this? Motorists who smoke while at the wheel are to be targeted for the first time by police as a potential threat to safety on the roads. The acting Deputy Chief Constable of Merseyside Police has told his officers they will be expected to be on the lookout for smoking motorists. Those caught could face an on-the-spot penalty of £60. Or a prosecution, either for driving without due care and attention, or for failing to control their vehicles. The announcement comes after the inclusion of smoking in new editions of the Highway Code as a potential hazard to safe driving. A Highway Code. Does that still exist? Smoking has been added for the first time to a long list of other potential distractions, which include playing loud music, eating and drinking, changing a CD, or turning on the radio, mixing a cocktail, chopping out some lines, and enjoying a Latvian call girl. It's 9:45. Here's Travel Now with Alan Joyce.
Well, here's
Abbott.
Okie dokie.
On this subject of the Highway Code, by the way, what percentage of the people who are on the roads right now do you think have taken a peek at the Highway Code since they passed their test? That's right. Only... well, I could work it out in reverse now, because I've just asked the question the wrong way. Only 68... No, hang on a minute. Oh, forget it. Who cares? 68% of the population say they've never looked at the Highway Code since they passed their test.
I expect it to be more.
Yes.
More haven't.
I was, yeah, quite. Hello, Betty.
Oh, hello, Nick.
How are you?
I know you watch lots of serials, so before I start, did you watch that in Africa with Amanda Holden and the vets?
No.
Oh, well, when they had animals like lions and tigers that were, you know, something wrong with them,
yeah,
they had Sten guns, which they just used to, you know, ponk them, knock them out, and then take them back to the surgery.
Right.
Well, why can't the police of today, instead of bullets, having those Sten guns, then like that Menzies that was killed like that, and all
Haven't we had this conversation, Betty?
Eh?
Haven't we had this conversation?
Well, I wondered, because I've run 3,
Right.
and I thought people would ring back and say, but nobody's bothered to answer.
Huh.
Well, all right, if we've had that, another thing.
And another
A
thing.
week ago, we were told you mustn't have red meat, you mustn't eat this, you mustn't have this. Well, my grandparents lived to be over 80s. My grandmother was a marvellous cook. My grandfather had a dairy, cream and milk in abundance. They both lived to be in their 80s. They
drank 3 pints of goose fat before they went to bed at night.
My grandfather used to go to the pub lunchtime. He smoked cigars. They both lived in their 80s. They just died of old age. And in the 1930s, cancer wasn't even thought of.
Right.
And, I mean, why are we told to have this, not have that?
Well, I think, Betty, partly it's because the people who are doing the telling have to justify their own research budgets. So if they come up with all of this stuff, then they will get more money from whoever it is who's paying their wages. If they just spend the year and they don't come up with anything, then they'll probably have their budget cut. So it benefits them to keep telling us that we're doomed.
And you know that gentleman who was on about we've got too many people, illegal immigrants, etc., in our country, which we have. And you see, most of them can't get a GP, so they all go to A&E just for nothing. And now they want to close loads of A&E, and that's why our health service is going down. Then we hear tonight about this St Pancras. What was it? 83 million it cost.
830.
830 million. And all it saves is 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
Now, what a waste of money.
Well, that was 830 million just to tart up the building, just the shed that they leave from. It cost another, like, 5.5 billion to dig the tunnel for the railway line to go there.
Think of all the hospitals they could have built. And
think of all the pints they could have.
Ashford
been the biggest round in the world.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're absolutely right. Everything you say, Betty. You keep on keeping on. All right.
Yeah.
Cheers, my dear. Ta-ra.
Yeah. Nice to speak to you.
And you. Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Here is Adrian.
Hello, Nick. How you doing?
I'm all right, thanks.
Yeah, just when you thought it was safe to turn on the radio, along comes back an old friend of yours.
Oh, right, yeah.
So,
we're talking about somebody who called at the very beginning of the programme. Never mind, carry on.
Yeah, I'm going to say I've got the number to Mad Mary if you want it.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, so, this documentary, you know, there's a fourth warning thing for you. There's a Kenny Everett thing on Sunday. On ITV.
Is there?
Yeah, because I think it said in the TV listings it's 12 years since he died, but it's got to be longer than that. It's got to be, 14 years, I reckon.
I really don't know. History not my strong point.
Yeah,
but what is it? What's going to be on?
It's just like a history of his career, as far as I can see. 10 o'clock Sunday night, so it might be worth watching, because we don't seem to, I think I've said this before, we don't seem to celebrate people here unless they're dead, do we?
We don't celebrate people unless they're dead?
Yeah. He wasn't really credited with the recognition he sort of deserved while he was alive, was he?
Oh, I'm not sure that's true. I think people realise that Kenny Everett was the greatest DJ talent this country had ever produced when he was alive, and they certainly know that since he's been dead. Having said that, however, there was one of the channels that he used to work for recently put on a series of his programmes, which actually weren't very good at all. And I think that after a certain time, he maybe just couldn't be bothered anymore, or he was tired, or he'd become disillusioned. He'd had the fun beaten out of him by the system, or something sort of went wrong. He had at his peak. Without question, the most inventive talent that has ever graced British radio.
Yeah.
But you'd have to say that there weren't many of them, really.
It's amazing that somebody like that actually got through, isn't it? Because talent isn't really what we do, is it?
What, British radio? Talent not our strong point. No.
Apart from LBC, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. Quite right there.
Did he get dropped by?
Everybody. He got dropped by everybody.
Because him and Benny Hill both got dropped. I mean, it's Benny Hill.
Benny Hill.
Yeah, they got dropped, and then America still loves him, don't they?
I think that Benny Hill and Monty Python is pretty much the only comedy that much of America knows about this country, or knows from this country.
Oh, it's probably the only two that want to know, isn't it?
Well, there's been some since.
Well, not much.
Let's not write us off totally. But no, I mean, if we had to put a world top 10 of radio talent together, I can think of two people from the entire history of British radio, not counting the chap who did Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. What's his name? Because that's not the sort of talent I'm talking about. But as a presenter, if we put a world top 10 of all time in, I think only two people from this country could actually get in the list, and that would be Kenny Everett, and the other guy, he wasn't even British, he was Australian. It was Alan Freeman.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't think of anyone.
This you, of course.
It's not that great, is it? We haven't done very well, as to paraphrase Bruce Forsyth.
But, you know, things, as Labour used to say, things can only get
Things can only get better, correct. Yeah. Listen, Aidan, unless there was something else, I've got to go, because we're past the break.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
All right.
Thank
you.
Right.
Ta-da.
Right, see you.
Yeah.
Here is Kentish Town. Hello, Pat.
Hi, Nick.
Pat.
Oh, yeah. I heard you saying a minute ago that you like the sound of those locomotive horns in the States.
Yes.
There's a website, hornblasters.com, where you can buy these horns.
Really?
With a kit to fit them to your car, yeah. And there's like, you get a compressor and a 20-litre tank for air. And this, like, if you look at the videos on these websites, these people have fitted these horns to their cars and drive around town, scaring people.
Yeah, to death, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's quite amusing.
Huh.
Hey, did you know, like, quickly, you know, someone else said a minute ago about they should ban cigarettes altogether. I looked this up the other day, and the revenue from tobacco last year was, I think, something like 9.3 billion, and the amount of money the NHS spent on tobacco-related illnesses was only 1.5 million. So
wow.
the smokers are basically propping up the NHS, aren't they?
Yeah, so go ahead and light
Smoke
that one.
away.
Yes, exactly right. You're doing us all a favour. Thank you.
Bye.
And of course, because they're going to be dropping off like flies, people who do smoke, they're basically giving us our money, giving us their money, and then doing the decent thing by dying really quickly. So everyone's a winner. See how that works out?
It's very depressing.
Yeah, just as long as you don't smoke around me, that's all, because, you know, I'm getting tired of setting fire to my clothes every time I come home. All right, what have we talked about so far then, Helen?
Yeah, congestion charge.
Mm-hmm.
Outdoor aerobics.
Yes, faster.
Trifles.
Quicker.
Pubs, puddings, spotted dick.
Mm-hmm.
Jam roly-poly.
Yes.
There's a high suicide rate in Sweden.
From puddings to suicide, yes.
Jazz.
Jazz.
Boring.
No.
You had a row with Jethro at one point.
I think he had a row with himself.
I think he did. Laurel and Hardy, the best comedy act ever.
Yes,
I totally
running
agree.
out of time. Quicker.
Binge drinking.
Yes.
Obsification. Did I get that one?
Close enough for jazz.